Chapter 747. After returning to the car, Lin Jiej first started the engine and switched on the heater before heading to the trunk to take out 2 bottles of water. He unscrewed the cap of one of the bottles, twisted it shut, and passed it over to Shi Yao. "Thank you," Shi Yao replied before taking the water from Zhang Xian. After sitting in the car for a while, Lin Jiej pondered over his words for a moment before asking, "Did something unpleasant happen?" Shi Yao didn't say a word. However, through her eyes, Lin Jiej could tell that she seemed to have suffered some grievance. While his heart ached for her, he didn't force her to ask about the situation. In an instant, the car fell silent. Lin Jiej had no idea how long he had been sitting quietly in the car with Shi Yao, but he couldn't bear to see her remain silent for too long. So, he fell into deep thought. Eventually, he recalled what she liked to eat, so he broke the silence in the car and said, "Do you want to grab some supper?" Shi Yao still didn't say a word. Lin Jiej didn't mind at all. "I know a place that sells kebabs until 2 in the morning. It's really delicious." Shi Yao remained silent. Lin Jiej patiently continued, "You don't like kebabs? How about some crayfish? Malatang? Beef noodle? It doesn't seem that late yet. It's only been a few hours since we had dinner. Are you still not that hungry?" "I guess so. Let's wait for a while then. Tell me when you're hungry, and I'll bring you there." Listening to Lin Jiej's monologue for so long, Shi Yao suddenly felt tears flowing down her cheeks. He was trying to coax her, but why did he end up making her cry instead? Lin Jiej immediately panicked. "Why are you crying all of a sudden? Did I say something wrong earlier?" "I'm sorry, I didn't do it on purpose. I was wrong." As he apologized profusely, Shi Yao's tears flowed even more furiously. She hadn't cried even as she watched her parents quarrel in her room, but listening to his words at this moment, she couldn't control her emotions anymore. "Yao Yao, it's all right now. Stop crying." Lin Jiej had never coaxed a girl before, and his sharp tongue made him incredibly clumsy at this moment. No matter how he tried, all he could say were the same words. Seeing that she was crying more and more fiercely, he quickly grabbed a tissue to wipe away her tears. It was fortunate that Shi Yao didn't cry for too long. It didn't take long for her tears to stop flowing. As if he had just escaped death, Lin Jiej heaved a sigh of relief. Noticing Zhang Xian's reaction, Shi Yao's eyes welled up once more, but this time, she didn't cry. Due to the previous incident where he had tried to coax her, only to end up making her cry instead, Lin Jiej didn't dare to open his mouth easily anymore. It was unusually quiet in the car. All the way until the latter half of the night, Shi Yao sneaked a peek at Lin Jiej, and seeing that he was still looking at her with a nervous expression, her heart suddenly softened. She pursed her lips slightly. After a while, she finally took the initiative to say, "My dad and mom, they're getting a divorce." Lin Jiej was initially overjoyed that she was finally willing to speak up, but after hearing the contents of her words, his heart suddenly ached. It was no wonder why she looked so unhappy tonight. So that was the reason. Actually, I already knew that they were at odds with each other. If Grandpa Lin hadn't come knocking on my door and told me about our engagement, they might have already gotten a divorce by then. Chapter 748. I know that everyone has the right to choose how they want to live, and I know that I shouldn't impose my thoughts on them. For my own sake, I didn't want them to get a divorce, but I really don't want them to get a divorce either. I feel that as long as Dad and Mom are together, I still have a home. If they're not together, I'll have no home at all. If I had listened to them and looked for you and coaxed you, they might not have ended up like this. But I don't want them to. You don't know, but when they look for me, they never ask me how I'm doing in school. As soon as they open their mouths, they'll talk about you. I feel that the reason they've treated me so well all these years is because of your family. If not for your family, would they have abandoned me a long time ago? Perhaps it was because it was a little difficult for her to talk about her family situation, she stuttered as she spoke. From the start to the end, Lin Jiej didn't interrupt her at all. He simply sat quietly by the side and listened attentively. Initially, her parents treated her very well, and she thought that she had a blissful family even though they weren't that wealthy. But later on, when she learned of their true thoughts, she couldn't accept it and felt terrible. Later on, she even said that she didn't want to be a money tree. She didn't think that she was important to her parents at all. In order for her to marry well, her father even went as far as to feign illness. In truth, he had already learned a lot about these things from Lang Yuan. But now that she was telling him about it, it was as if he was listening to a business proposal. He listened to every single word she said in great detail. She spoke a lot, and it was likely that she had vented out all of the discomfort she had been suppressing in her heart. In the end, her tone had clearly become much more relaxed, and the aggrieved look on her face had dissipated by more than half. It's been so many years since they've separated. I should be happy, shouldn't I? No matter what, I'm the only one who's left now that I've grown up. At the very least, it's better than when I was young. I should really be happy, shouldn't I? As she spoke, she turned to Lin Jiej and squeezed out a smile. She was probably tired from talking too much, so she didn't say anything else after asking that question. However, her final words struck a chord in Lin Jiej's heart. For a moment, Lin Jiej didn't know how he should respond to her words. He looked at her little face that was forcing a smile, and his throat felt like it was being choked by something. It was very painful. A moment later, Lin Jiej forcefully suppressed the soreness in his heart and moved his lips. That can't be. How could you be the only one left? Even if you were the only one left, I would still accompany you. I will also accompany you. Hearing those simple words, Shi Yao's eyes reddened once more. Why are you crying again? Lin Jiej asked anxiously. No. Shi Yao shook her head. She waited for her emotions to stabilize a little before asking once more, what do you think I should do in the future? Lin Jiej reached out to stroke Shi Yao's fringe as he asked gently, what do you want to do? I don't know. Shi Yao replied softly before adding. If they really divorce, I don't want to stay at home anymore. Where do you want to live? Chapter 749. Sure. If you don't mind, I can even help you look for a house. Really? Shi Yao asked hesitantly. Of course. Not only can I help you look for a house, I can even help you decorate your home. I can accompany you to pick out any furniture you want, and I can even help you clean up the place. A hint of a smile surfaced in Lin Jiej's eyes. Don't tell me that I'm the one who said that I'm going to help you. As long as you ask for my help, I'll agree to anything you want me to do. Shi Yao felt that Lin Jiej's words sounded too much like a fairy tale, and she found it hard to believe. She stared at Lin Jiej for a moment before asking softly, anything I want. As long as it's within my means, I'll do anything, Lin Jiej said solemnly, as if making a vow. Then. Shi Yao gulped down a mouthful of saliva. You said earlier that you'll bring me to eat skewers, crayfish, mala soup, and denim rice noodles. Does that still count? If it had been any other woman, she would surely have made use of this opportunity to make a high demand, but she. Soft bun was indeed soft bun. Lin Jiej burst into laughter. Of course it does. Which do you want to eat? I'll bring you there right now. I want to eat all of them. Shi Yao was a little embarrassed, but she was also a little afraid that her suggestion would be too unreasonable. Her fingers uneasily clasped the seatbelt of the car before she muttered softly, why don't I just eat 3 dishes? As she said those words, Shiryao turned to look at Lin Jiej with uneasiness in her eyes as she compromised. Too. Let's have denim rice noodles then. At the end of her words, Shiryao lowered her head pitifully, and her grip on her seatbelt tightened. Looking at Shiryao's adorable appearance, a gentle smile surfaced on Lin Jiej's face. Without any hesitation, he said, "It's fine, we'll eat all of them." After which, he started the car. After driving for a distance, Shiryao still felt a little uneasy. She couldn't help but ask, "Lin Jiej, don't you think that my request was a little too much? You can go even further. For example, think of 4 more that you want to eat, or even 40. As long as you can eat it, it's fine. Provided that you don't waste food." Hearing Lin Jiej's words, Shiryao replied with a ha-ha before a smile crept up her face. Seeing her smile, Lin Jiej stared straight ahead at the road ahead and smiled as well. The car sped forward for a while before a thought suddenly struck Lin Jiej, and he said, "I like it when you're so overboard. Because of this, I feel that you have a place in my heart." His voice was so soft that Shiryao didn't notice his words at all. The car remained silent as it continued driving forward. It didn't take long for them to enter the city, and it didn't take long before they arrived at the restaurant where Shiryao wanted to eat denim rice noodles. Lin Jiej really accompanied Shiryao as they went from denim noodles to crayfish, and then from crayfish to mala soup. As the skewer shop he had mentioned closed at 2 in the morning, Lin Jiej brought Shiryao to another skewer shop that was still open at night. By the time he finished all the food, the sky was already bright. Chapter 750. Shiryao hesitated for a moment before voicing out her concerns. "But it's still early, and the dormitory isn't open yet. Besides, there's a good chance that someone might see me staying out last night. It's not too far from my place. Do you want to sleep over there?" Shiryao pondered for a moment before nodding her head. Seeing that she had agreed to it, Lin Jiej stepped on the accelerator and drove all the way to the underground parking lot of his apartment building. After returning home, Lin Jiej passed Shiryao a pair of slippers before heading to the storage room. After Shiryao was done changing her slippers, Lin Jiej passed her a brand new toothpaste, toothbrush, and cup. "You can sleep in the same bedroom as before. The shower gel and other stuff you used in the past are still there, but there's no need to change the bed sheets. Auntie just washed them yesterday, and the mites were removed. The towel and towel are still here too." At this point, Lin Jiej seemed to have thought of something, and he quickly told Shiryao, "Wait a moment for me," before heading back to his bedroom. A moment later, he returned with a white t-shirt and said, "You can use this as your pajamas." Shiryao nodded her head in acknowledgement before carrying the things Lin Jiej had given her and headed to the bedroom she was going to sleep in. But barely after she took a few steps, Lin Jiej suddenly called out to her, "Right, Yao Yao." Shiryao turned around and asked, "What's wrong?" Lin Jiej raised his wrist to take a look at the time. "I have a meeting at 9:30 am, so I'll probably be heading out between 8:30 am and 9 am. Just go ahead and sleep, but there might be no one at home when you wake up, so you can do whatever you want." Shiryao replied with an "oh" to indicate that she understood. After which, she asked, "Is there anything else?" Lin Jiej fell silent for a moment before shaking his head. Shiryao pushed open the door and entered the bedroom. As soon as Shiryao stepped out of the shower, she immediately fell asleep on the bed. She had no idea how long she had slept for, but she could vaguely hear the sound of a door closing. She continued lying on the bed for a while longer before recalling that Lin Jiej had said that he would be heading out at around 9 am. Without any hesitation, she quickly pulled off her blanket and ran out of the room in her slippers. Lin Jiej, who had spent the entire night accompanying her, had only slept for 4 hours. At this moment, he was already dressed and standing in the dining room, brewing a cup of coffee. Upon seeing Shiryao, Lin Jiej asked in bewilderment, "Why aren't you sleeping?" Shiryao glanced at the water dispenser by the side and came up with a random excuse. "I'm thirsty." Without saying a word, Lin Jiej put down his coffee cup, picked up a cup of warm water, and passed it over to Shiryao. Lin Jiej picked up the cup of coffee and drank half of it to refresh himself before putting it down. "I'll be heading out now. You should head back and rest for a while after you're done drinking," Shiryao replied with an as she sipped from her cup of water. Lin Jiej didn't stay any longer. He grabbed his laptop and documents, and just as he was about to leave, the phone in his pocket suddenly rang. Hearing the commotion, Shiryao turned to look at him. Upon seeing the caller ID, Lin Jiej's footsteps abruptly halted. Without any hesitation, he pressed on the button to accept the call. "Liang Xiao, Liang Xiao." Upon hearing those two words, Shiryao subconsciously pricked up her ears. She even stopped drinking her water and focused her attention on eavesdropping on Lin Jiej's call. Chapter 751. Liang Xiao. Upon hearing those two words, Shiryao subconsciously pricked up her ears. She even stopped drinking her water and focused all her attention on Lin Jiej's phone call. Lin Jiej's back was facing her, making it impossible for him to see her at all. But in truth, he was discreetly assessing her through a mirror not too far away. When he noticed the tense look on Liang Xiao's face after he spoke those words, his lips couldn't help but curl up into a smile. After hearing Liang Xiao's words, he intentionally conveyed the meaning behind her words to the young lady behind him. "Do I have time tonight?" Lin Jiej's attention had been focused on Shiryao the entire time, so when he saw her turn to look at him through the mirror, he calmly replied to Liang Xiao's question, "I think so." "What's wrong?" As he said those words, Lin Jiej noticed a slight frown on Shiryao's forehead, seemingly dissatisfied with his answer. But he was very satisfied with her reaction. In order not to expose himself, he forcefully pressed down on the curve of his lips. Just like before, he deliberately repeated Liang Xiao's words before replying to her, "Eat?" "Sure." Shiryao's hand trembled, causing a large portion of the water in her cup to spill out. Hearing the commotion, Lin Jiej feigned ignorance as he turned his head over to look at Shiryao. Meeting his questioning gaze, Shiryao feigned a composed expression as she waved her hands casually. Then, as if she had accidentally placed the cup on the table, she took out 2 napkins and calmly wiped away the water on her wrists. Seeing as Shiryao was completely fine, Lin Jiej pretended not to see anything and continued speaking into his phone. "What time is it tonight?" 6:30. "Sure, no problem." "Oh right, who's there?" Lin Jiej intentionally paused for a moment before replying, "Just me and you." To Liang Xiao, who had been silent all this while, Lin Jiej's words were strung together as a single sentence. "Who's there for dinner? Is it just me and you?" But to Shiryao, it was as if Liang Xiao had replied to her words, telling her that it was just the two of them, and he was merely repeating her words. As expected, barely after Lin Jiej said those words, a loud "pa" sounded behind him. He turned around and saw Shiryao knocking the tissue box to the ground. On the other end of the line, Liang Xiao, who was talking about who was having dinner tonight, heard the sound and asked, "What's wrong?" Lin Jiej replied nonchalantly, "It's nothing much, I just accidentally knocked something over. If there's nothing else, I'll be hanging up now." After Liang Xiao hung up the call, Lin Jiej shot a glance at Shiryao, who was squatting on the floor, picking up the tissue boxes. Speaking into the busy tone in his earpiece, he said, "All right, I'll see you there tonight." There was another "pa" sound. The tissue box that Shiryao had just picked up fell heavily to the ground once more. The tissue box was made of a special material. It was neither plastic nor porcelain, so it was quite resistant to knocks. However, after falling to the ground twice in a row, it broke into pieces. Chapter 752. It's fine. After replying, Lin Jie realized that there was nothing else he could say other than it. After all, even if she did it on purpose, he wouldn't dare to do anything to her. If she wanted to fall, he could only let her fall. If she didn't like it, he would have to get down from the horse and fall with her until she was happy. Otherwise, what else could he do? With this thought in mind, Lin Jie said, "Don't bother with these things. The cleaning auntie will be here soon. She'll clean up the mess." As he spoke, Lin Jie raised his wrist to take a look at the time. "It's already 9 o'clock. I have to head out now. You should head back to your room and get some sleep." Seeing that Lin Jie was about to leave, Shuyao subconsciously called out, "Lin Jie." Lin Jie turned to look at Shuyao and asked, "What's wrong?" Shuyao pursed her lips and asked, "Do you have a dinner date with someone?" Lin Jie enjoyed Shuyao's question very much. He was overjoyed inside, but on the surface, he maintained a calm demeanor and replied, I have a dinner date with a friend I haven't seen for many years." "Oh." Shuyao replied with a muffled voice. Lin Jie knew that she had many questions she wanted to ask him, but there wasn't much time left, and it wasn't a bad idea to make her anxious like this. Thus, before Shuyao could speak, he spoke up, "Yao Yao, if there's anything you want to say, can we talk about it later? I really don't have much time on my end. I have to go now." As he spoke, Lin Jie raised his hand and stroked Shuyao's head. "You don't just stand here. Hurry up and head back to your room to catch up on your sleep. I'll be leaving now." Without giving Shuyao a chance to speak, Lin Jie finished his words in a single breath. After which, he walked to the entrance, changed into his shoes, and waved his hand at Shuyao, who was staring at him with a look of hesitation. After which, he pushed open the door and left without a backward glance. Shuyao stood alone in the empty living room for a very long time before she dragged her slightly heavy footsteps back to her room absent-mindedly. Lying on her bed and closing her eyes, her mind was filled with the conversation between Lin Jie and Liang Xiao. She tossed and turned for a very long time, but no matter how hard she tried, she just couldn't fall asleep. He had a dinner date with Liang Xiao, and just like last night, it was still just the two of them. He even told her that he wouldn't leave until he left for work. Why didn't he tell her that he wouldn't leave until he left? With such thoughts in mind, Shuyao flipped her body over and hugged her blanket tightly. She kicked her legs angrily as she cursed Lin Jie in her heart. After which, she stared out the window and began to daydream once more. While Shuyao's thoughts were running wild, her phone suddenly rang. She glanced at the caller ID and answered the call. "Nuan Nuan, Yao Yao, why aren't you back at school yet? Did you forget that it's Tiantian's birthday today? We've agreed to celebrate her birthday at noon, right?" Ling Wan's reminder reminded Shuyao that it was really Tiantian's birthday today. She took a look at the time, and it was already noon. She immediately stood up and said, "If you didn't tell me, I would have forgotten about it. You three should head to the dining room first. I'll be leaving right now. Let's meet at the dining room later." Chapter 753. Tiantian's birthday was already half a month ago, and the dormitory had already decided on what to eat. However, due to Shuyao's late departure, Ling Wan, Jiang Yu, and Tian were already waiting for her by the time she arrived. After taking a seat, Shuyao took the menu from Ling Wan and ordered 2 more dishes. After the waiter left, Jiang Yu and Tian stared at Shuyao with malicious gazes, asking her where she went last night. Faced with Jiang Yu and Tian's relentless questioning, Shuyao remained silent. However, before Jiang Yu and Tian could bring out their trump card and threaten Shuyao with snacks, their attention was drawn away by a conversation at the table beside them. The first to speak up was the male student sitting behind He Tian. Do you know? I have a buddy who confessed to his wife on their wedding anniversary. He spent a huge sum of money to confess to his wife on the big screen of the most prosperous office building in the city. That's 100,000 renminbi per hour, and he spent a total of 5 hours on the big screen. The next to speak was another man sitting at the same table. That's nothing. I have a friend who flew 9,999 roses over to his girlfriend's birthday. That's hundreds of thousands of RMB, and it's his girlfriend, not his wife. Hearing those words, He Tian and Jiang Yu couldn't help but huddle together and whisper among themselves. Jiang Yu, say, do you think they're telling the truth or just making things up? Is there really such a generous man in the world? He Tian, I'm perplexed as well. Let me tell you, I often see women showing off their diamonds and bags when I browse through Little Red Book. The phrase they often use is my husband gave it to me, my boyfriend gave it to me. Say, where in the world did they get their husbands and boyfriends from? Tell me so that I can get one too. Jiang Yu, +1. I also want to get a rich boyfriend or husband like that. Seeing that Shi Yao and Leng Wan weren't cooperating with her at all, He Tian suddenly remembered that Shi Yao already had Lin Jiej, so she turned to Leng Wan and asked, Wan, don't you want to get a rich boyfriend like that? Leng Wan took a sip of fruit juice before replying coldly, I don't want to. I can become a tycoon myself. While Shi Yao's table was discussing where a nouveau riche's boyfriend or husband could get a reward, another table was also discussing how their brothers were showing off their love. All of you, shut up and listen to me. That's really low. I have a buddy who's really awesome. You know, I sell antiques, and some of them are really expensive. Then, my buddy called me one day and said that he had an inkstone he wanted to sell at my place. That inkstone is from the Qing dynasty, and it's real. It's very expensive, at least 200,000 yuan in the market. If it's auctioned, it'll probably go even higher. If someone wants to collect it, they'll probably be willing to spend millions. Then, he told me that the next day, a girl would come to my shop to choose an inkstone, and he told me to sell her the 200,000 yuan inkstone for 200 yuan. Hearing those words, Shi Yao, Leng Wan, Jiang Yu, and He Tian stared at one another for a long while before they started whispering to one another. Why does this story sound so familiar? That's right. Didn't Yao buy an inkstone before? Chapter 754. You don't say. That boy looks really familiar. Lin Sanjiu said. Let me see. Ah. He really seems to be the shop owner that Yao bought the inkstone from. Amidst the commotion, Shi Yao also turned her gaze toward the chattering male student. Of course, you'll surely say that 200,000 renminbi is much less than the money spent by those nouveau riche friends of yours. But let me tell you, you're wrong. What I'm trying to say isn't money but that bro of mine. From the start to the end, he didn't let that girl know who he is. Let me ask you this, are you convinced? Tell me, out of all the people you know, who can do such a thing for a girl silently, spend so much money, and not let her know? Furthermore, that girl isn't his girlfriend or his wife, but the girl he admires. Let me ask you this, are you convinced? Are you convinced? The other male students at the table also spoke up. Yes. Is there a hole in that guy's head? Isn't he being a sucker? Doing good deeds without leaving his name, is he trying to imitate a pervert? How in the world can he woo a girl like that? Let me tell you, since ancient times, infatuation has always been the only way to win a person's heart. So, no matter what you do, you have to let the other party know. Even if you don't know, you have to find a way to find out so that you can woo your wife, alright? The male student who told the story of the inkstone gulped down a huge mouthful of wine before continuing. I asked my friend the same question, and he replied with one sentence. What did he say? Money can't buy my willingness. The heck, that's a foolish son of a rich family. He has too much money to spend, so he's just flaunting it. Heh, you're right. That friend of mine really has too much money to spend. Let me tell you, he's a top student of G University, and his family background is already impressive. Yet, he's unwilling to just be a second-generation nouveau riche and insists on being a first-generation nouveau riche. Even before graduating from university, he managed to earn hundreds of millions of RMB through his projects. He just registered a company this year, and it seems like it's doing pretty well. At this point, Tian couldn't help but pull Shi Yao's hand and say, Yao Yao, he's talking about Senior Lin. Senior Lin. Jiang Yu, that's right, it's Senior Lin from G University. He's from a rich family. He doesn't want to be a second-generation rich, but he wants to be a first-generation rich. He's starting a company this year, and everything matches up with Senior Lin. Compared to Jiang Yu and Tian's words, Ling Wan's concern was much more direct. Yao Yao, didn't you say that the person who recommended you to buy the inkstone was an online friend you met in the game? So, that netizen is actually Senior Lin. As Ling Wan's words reached Shi Yao's ears, the chopsticks in her hand suddenly fell onto the table with a gotcha. Mr. Numbers had recommended her to buy an inkstone, and he had even told her that the other party was a friend of his, and on his account, the other party would give her a discount. Later on, during Grandpa Lin's birthday banquet, the inkstone that she had stolen for 200 yuan turned out to be an authentic one that was worth 200,000 yuan. At that time, she really didn't think that there was anything wrong with it. She just thought that she had been lucky. But now that she thought about it, there really were a lot of loopholes that day. Chapter 755. Another example was how Lin Jiej had instructed Liang Mumu to hold on to her inkstone before inviting an expert over to appraise it. Another example would be how confident Lin Jiej had been the entire time that night. Back then, she was still cursing him for setting her up, but thinking about it now, the reason why he had such a reaction was because everything had been within his grasp. He wasn't setting her up, he had already dug a trap for Liang Mumu from the very start, and he was just waiting for her to jump into it. From the start to the end, he had been helping and protecting her. He had allowed her to calmly overcome Liang Mumu's trap without having to do anything at all. Also, when she saw the kingdom of snacks on Mountain Changming, she was still perplexed as to how Lin Jiej knew that her dream was to own such a house. Now that she thought about it, he had already given himself away back then. She was too careless and didn't pursue the matter further. She had only told Mr. Numbers about her dream, so, it was just as Ling Wan had said. Mr. Numbers equals Lin Jiej, and Lin Jiej equals Mr. Numbers? Shi Yao couldn't shake the feeling that this was all a dream. She secretly pinched her thigh, and when she felt the pain, she picked up her phone and hurriedly looked for Lin Jiej to send her a WeChat message. Sis Jiej. Do you have Lin Jiej's WeChat? Perhaps Lin Jiej was busy, she replied to Shi Yao's message very straightforwardly, sharing her name card. And that name card was one that Shi Yao couldn't be more familiar with. Less than 111,111, Mr. Numbers, who had played games with her for the past 8 months, Mr. Numbers is actually Lin Jiej. Lin Jiej is actually Mr. Numbers. Shi Yao's mind was in a daze for a very long time. Then, it suddenly occurred to her that Mr. Numbers had been bringing her to compete in tournaments to earn money. In other words, Lin Jiej had been bringing her to compete in tournaments to earn money. Why would Lin Jiej suddenly bring her to compete in tournaments to earn money? In her mind, she went through everything that had happened recently from start to finish. After which, she turned to look at Ling Wan and asked, Nuan, did you tell him about me? Jiang Yu, what matter? He Tian, there's actually a secret between the two of you. I'm not happy. Ignoring Jiang Yu and He Tian, Ling Wan nodded towards Shi Yao and said, that's right, Yao Yao. However, Yao Yao, I didn't mean to betray you. You should know my personality very well, I've never meddled in other people's affairs. However, the reason why I told him that time was because I wanted to help you. It was because I wanted to help you. But no matter what, Yao Yao, I still owe you an apology. Ling Wan was right. She knew very well what kind of person she was, and she also knew that Ling Wan was doing this for her own good. In truth, she wasn't blaming her for asking this question. Rather, she was trying to figure out one thing, was it really as she thought? After learning about her parents' situation, Lin Jiej knew that she was concerned about the debt of 1,000,000 RMB, so he decided to help her silently. He had always been unwilling to agree to break off the engagement, but that day when they went to Mount Chongming, he agreed. It was also after he found out about this matter that he agreed. He understood her difficulties, so he let go. During this period of time, he had very little interaction with her. She thought that he had already left her world. Only now did she realize that he had never left her. He had always been by her side, silently accompanying her at all times. Chapter 756. An indescribable feeling of gratitude mixed with intense throbbing filled Shi Yao's heart in an instant. She thought that in this world, nothing could be more contented than this. There was a person who, from the moment he set his eyes on you, no matter if you stayed by his side or left him, as long as you turned around, he would always be there, never leaving. It didn't take long for the dishes to be served by the waiter. Starving from the long ruckus, Jiang Yu quickly beckoned for everyone to dig in. With the delicacies before them, everyone quickly changed the topic. While enjoying their meal, they didn't forget to wish He Tian an eternal 18 years old. Shi Yao was also eating, and from time to time, she would chat with the others as well. However, her thoughts would also drift toward Lin Jiej from time to time. After lunch, since they didn't have any classes in the afternoon, the 4 girls from the dormitory room headed to a nearby shopping mall. This was something that they had agreed on half a month ago when they were discussing how they should celebrate He Tian's birthday with her. However, throughout the entire shopping trip, Shi Yao had been in a state of absent-mindedness. She would either stop in her tracks as she walked, or someone would call out to her to try on clothes and ask her if they looked good on her. She wouldn't respond no matter how many times they called out to her. Sometimes, someone would find something nice for her to try on and she would take it into the changing room, only to be called out again and again. She was still wearing her original clothes, and the clothes that she had been asked to try on were still in her hands, untouched. Such situations happened too often that even Jiang Yu, who was the slowest among them, noticed that something was amiss with Shi Yao. Yao Yao, what's wrong with you? To be more precise, you've been acting a little weird lately. It's as if you've lost your soul. He Tian leaned over and said, that's right, Yao Yao. Tell me honestly, who stole your soul? Having her thoughts exposed, Shi Yao's face reddened. No, I didn't. Don't spout nonsense. Less than 3 seconds later, Shi Yao took the initiative to speak up once more. Say, what do you think you would do if your souls were taken away by someone else? He Tian had always been a quick-witted person. What else can I do? I'll steal the soul of whoever steals my soul away. This is called exchanging a soul for a soul. Jiang Yu said, you're making it sound so scary. Do you think you're acting in a supernatural story? Hearing Jiang Yu's words, Shi Yao began to ponder over He Tian's words. Whoever steals my soul away, I'll steal their soul away. That's right. Because of Lin Jiej, she had been out of sorts recently, and he, the long-lost old friend of hers, had a meal together last night, and he was going to be there alone tonight. She couldn't allow him to continue like this. Not to mention, this old girl was different from the girls around him. She was the only girl that he had ever taught math problems to in middle school. Besides, Ling Wan had said last night that it took a veil for a woman to pursue a man. It had only been 2 days since Liang Xiao had returned, but he had already asked Lin Jiej out for dinner 2 days in a row. This was a blatant attempt at seduction. If it was really as Ling Wan had said, and Liang Xiao had really done something to her, resulting in a soft and fair carrot appearing, she would really be done for. Chapter 757. With such thoughts in mind, Shuyao couldn't help but blurt out the words in her heart, "That's right. No matter what, I can't lose him." He Tian, what? Lose what? Who did you lose? However, Shuyao didn't pay him any heed. She continued thinking about her own matters. Ling Wan also said that sometimes, the fates between two people could be broken just like that. Take a movie she had watched last year for example. The male and female lead quarreled over a small matter, and in a fit of pique, the female lead moved out of the male lead's house. The male lead thought that the female lead would come back on her own, and the female lead thought that the male lead would try to persuade her to stay. Just like that, one of them didn't try to persuade her to stay, and the other didn't come back. No matter what, she couldn't allow herself and Lin Jiej to end up in such a state. It was too much of a pity for her to miss him. Besides, one had to fight for one's own happiness. Lin Jiej had confessed to her so many times, so it was only right for her to take the initiative to ask him to stay once. If there were 100 steps between them, and he had already taken 99 of them, why couldn't she take the final step? That's right, I can definitely take the final step. Shuyao blurted out once more. Jiang Yu, it's over, it's over. Yao Yao has been spouting nonsense all this time. It can't be that she's become a fool after her soul was snatched away, right? Shuyao glared at Jiang Yu angrily as she replied in her mind, "You're the fool." However, she didn't pay any heed to Jiang Yu's words. Instead, she hurriedly said, "The three of you can enjoy your shopping. I'm leaving now." Jiang Yu, Yao Yao, why are you leaving again? He Tian, that's right. You were like this last night, and you're doing it again now. Stop right there. Don't run away. Ignoring Jiang Yu and He Tiantian's displeasure, Shuyao continued running toward the elevator. However, not too long after, she suddenly thought of something and stopped. Am I going to look for Lin Jiej like this? Shuyao slowly turned around to face a mirror in the display window. She was dressed in a simple sweater, jeans, and sneakers, and her hair was casually tied behind her head. Compared to the meticulously dressed Liang Xiao she had seen last night, she was a world of difference. That Liang Xiao was pretty, but she had dressed up before. Facing the mirror, Shuyao stood on her tiptoes, pretending that she was wearing high heels. Then, she recalled that she wasn't that much shorter than Liang Xiao. So, if she were to dress up, she might not be worse than Liang Xiao. With such thoughts in mind, Shuyao turned around and ran back to Ling Wan, He Tian, and Jiang Yu. Jiang Yu's eyes widened. No way, Tian. You told her to stop running and she really came back. When did she become so obedient to you? Shuyao chuckled coldly at Jiang Yu before getting straight to the point. Well, why don't you accompany me to buy some clothes? After that, we'll go to the spa and get my hair done. He Tian reached out to touch Shuyao's forehead and asked, You don't have a fever, so why are you suddenly acting like this? Shuyao, don't worry about it. In any case, you're just accompanying me. Jiang Yu asked, What style are you going to dress yourself in? Is it an older sister style or a lowly style? Chapter 758. Just like that, the four girls began shopping around the most high-end international boutiques on the first floor. It was already close to the end of autumn, and it was already the start of winter. Nevertheless, for the sake of her beauty, Yao still chose a dress that revealed her fair and slender legs. She wore a pair of heels of the same color and put on a white fur coat. Standing in front of the mirror, Yao examined herself, and she couldn't help but feel a little dazzled. After shopping for the clothes, Yao didn't forget to choose a bag that complemented her outfit. After they were done shopping, the four young ladies headed to the spa on the upper floor. Yao went through a full set of deep facial treatments before heading to a beauty salon on the same floor. She first had her hair nourished before having the stylist come up with a beautiful hairstyle. Finally, she arranged for a beautician to apply an exquisite makeup on Yao. After everything was done, Yao looked at herself in the mirror for a long time. She couldn't help but feel a little lacking in confidence, so she couldn't help but ask the makeup artist, "Do you think I look good now?" "Miss, you're already very beautiful without makeup. With your current appearance, you can even participate in a beauty pageant." The stylist was a gentle young lady, and her voice was very gentle. Hearing the makeup artist's half-joking words, Yao's heart finally calmed down a little. She thanked the makeup artist before walking out of the dressing room. Ling Wan, Jiang Yu, and He Tian, who were waiting outside, immediately stood up in delight upon seeing Yao. "Whoa, Yao, you look really beautiful now." "Indeed. You're already beautiful normally, but with this makeup, you don't pale in comparison to those celebrities on the big screen at all right?" "What do you mean by not pale in comparison to them?" "It means that you're better than them." Yao, stand there and don't move. Let me take a picture." Even without any makeup, this picture already looks like a blockbuster. Faced with her roommate's praises, Yao couldn't help but feel a little embarrassed. She lowered her head and looked at her outfit for a moment before asking, "Are you sure that it's fine for me to look like this?" "Jiang Yu, it's fine. Anyone who says that there's a problem is blind." He Tian, Yao, if this is considered a problem, then there's no one in the world who doesn't have a problem. Even with Jiang Yu and He Tian's affirmation, Yao still turned to look at Ling Wan. Meeting her gaze, the usually unsmiling Ling Wan's lips curled up into a smile, 100 points. Hearing this answer, Yao burst into laughter. She took out her phone to take a look, and before she knew it, it was already 5:30. Too engrossed in his smugness, he had forgotten to check the time. Lin Jie and Liang Xiao were supposed to meet at 6:30 p.m. It couldn't be that he had already set off to meet Liang Xiao, could he? *T. Yao cursed inwardly as she quickly took out her phone and dialed Lin Jie's number. Perhaps Lin Jie's phone wasn't with him, or perhaps it was on silent mode. Yao dialed the number, but no one picked up. It wasn't until she dialed the number for the third time that someone finally answered. Before Lin Jie could speak, Yao had already interjected, "Lin Jie, where are you at the moment?" Chapter 759. In truth, it didn't take long. It was just a few short seconds, but the anxious Yao felt as if she had waited for a very long time. She couldn't help but ask anxiously, "Lin Jie, I'm asking you a question. Where are you right now?" "I'm in the middle of a meeting." Lin Jie replied in bewilderment. Noticing the anxiety in Yao's voice, he thought that something had happened to her, so he asked anxiously, "What's wrong? Did something happen?" "Meeting. Where are you holding it?" "It can't be a one-on-one meeting with Liang Xiao, right?" Yao subconsciously tightened her grip on her phone. Ignoring the latter half of Lin Jie's question, she asked another question, "Where are you holding the meeting?" "Where else can it be?" "It's at the office." Lin Jie's tone carried a hint of, "What kind of question is that?" Yao replied with an "oh," as she heaved a sigh of relief. So, Lin Jie hadn't set off to meet Liang Xiao yet. It seemed like she could still make it in time to intercept him. With such a thought in mind, Shuyao asked again, "How much longer until your meeting ends?" "If it's quick, it'll take at least half an hour." After replying to Shuyao's question, Lin Jie asked, "Yao Yao, what's wrong?" "Half an hour." If she were to take the subway to his office, it would only take around 10 minutes or so. That should be more than enough time. Shuyao's heart finally calmed down. "It's nothing much. I just wanted to ask you something." "Go ahead with your meeting, I won't disturb you any longer." Saying so, Shuyao prepared to hang up the call. On the other end of the call, Lin Jie seemed to realize that she was about to hang up, so he hurriedly asked, "Yao Yao, are you really fine?" "I'm really fine. I promise. I swear." Lin Jie was silent for a few seconds on the other end of the call before replying, "All right then, I'll be heading off to the meeting first. We'll talk later." Shuyao replied with an before hanging up the call. Due to the urgency of the situation, she didn't waste any time with Leng Wan, He Tian, and Jiang Yu. Instead, she hurriedly asked them to help her bring the clothes and shoes she had changed out of back to her dormitory room. After which, she flipped through her subway card and headed for the elevator. However, before she could take a step forward, she seemed to have thought of something. She walked up to Leng Wan and asked her softly, "Wan, do you think he'll look down on me if I send myself to him like this?" Even though Shuyao didn't say what she was up to, Leng Wan could roughly guess what she was up to. Even though Shuyao didn't mention Lin Jie's name, Leng Wan could tell that Shuyao was going to look for him. After hearing Shuyao's words, Leng Wan shook her head and reassured her, "Don't worry, he won't. If he dares to look down on you, just beat him up. If you can't defeat him, I'll do it for you." "You're right." Shuyao felt that Leng Wan's words made sense. "If he dares to look down on me, I'll beat him up. If we can't defeat him, it's fine. I still have Sis Jai." After saying those words, a smile crept up Shuyao's face as she waved goodbye to Leng Wan. Then, with her subway card in hand, she dashed toward the elevator without looking back. It happened to be the evening rush hour, so there were quite a lot of people taking the subway. Chapter 760. Fortunately, there were only 3 stops to go. 10 minutes later, Shuyao forced herself to remain calm as she stood in the subway, pretending that she didn't notice the gazes on her. She barely managed to hold on until she reached her destination before quickly getting off the subway. Lin Jie's company was located 100 meters away from the subway entrance. Even though Shuyao had never been there before, it didn't take her long to find the location. She took the elevator up to the 21st floor, and as soon as she came out, she saw the logo of Lin Jie's company. Upon seeing her, the receptionist politely asked, "Who are you looking for?" Shuyao honestly replied with Lin Jie's name. In truth, there were plenty of beautiful ladies who came to look for their boss, but this was the first time she had seen such a beautiful lady. So, the receptionist couldn't help but take a few more glances at Shuyao before asking, "I have to inform him that I'm meeting Boss Lin, so may I know your name?" Shuyao obediently replied with her name. Usually, when hiring receptionists, the boss wouldn't personally interview them, but here, Lin Jie had personally interviewed the receptionist. Furthermore, during the interview, Lin Jie had emphasized to her that she had to ask for the name of any lady who came to look for him. Other than his mother, his elder sister, and his aunt, the only one who was allowed to enter directly was Shuyao. As for the other ladies, she could inform them if they were business partners, but if they weren't, she would just find an excuse and have them leave. It had been quite some time since the company was established, and there were indeed quite a few ladies who came to look for their boss. However, the one she was most curious about was Shuyao, who had been given the green light. She had never met Shuyao before, and now, she finally met her. After hearing Shuyao's name, the receptionist couldn't help but take a few more glances at her. Then, she picked up the landline and made a symbolic call before letting Shiryao in. Boss Lin is currently in the conference room. You'll see him if you walk straight in. Shiryao politely smiled at the receptionist and thanked her before entering Lin Jie's company. The conference room that the receptionist spoke of wasn't too difficult to find. It didn't take her long to see Lin Jie and a dozen or so unfamiliar faces seated in the conference room through the glass window. Shiryao was only here to intercept him, not to cause trouble. Naturally, she wouldn't disrupt Lin Jie's conference. So, she found a place to sit down and began surveying Lin Jie's company. Many people had yet to get off work and were busy at their desks. Most of them were men, and there were a few women who were quite old. It was only when this thought finally settled in Shiryao's mind that she realized that she seemed to be overly sensitive toward the women around Lin Jie. Was it because she had been a glutton since she was young that she was even a little jealous now? Shiryao's seat wasn't too far away from the conference room. Lin Jie had been focused on the meeting the entire time, so he didn't notice her presence at all. It was only when he noticed that there were two male employees glancing out of the room that he noticed. Perplexed, he followed their gazes, and it was only then that he noticed Shiryao. What was she doing here? She had just called him and anxiously asked where he was. Was it to find him? And today, she was very special, very beautiful. No wonder his employees were so distracted in their meetings when they saw her, but then again, did she purposely come to look for him and purposely tidied herself up? Chapter 761. The product director had just finished his speech, and seeing that Lin Jie still hadn't said anything, he couldn't help but remind him, Boss Lin. Hearing those words, Lin Jie immediately shifted his gaze from Shiryao to the product director. He had heard the product director's words very clearly, but he was completely clueless about what the latter few minutes were saying. Even so, it didn't bother him too much. He calmly nodded to the product director, as if he hadn't been distracted at all. He replied with an "oh" before turning to the others in the room and asking, "What about the rest of you? Is there anything you would like to add?" Most likely, just like Zhang Xian, a few of them had been too engrossed in watching Shiryao earlier to listen to his words. Thus, upon hearing his question, they lowered their heads. Finally, Lin Jie turned his gaze to the marketing director and said, "Since there's nothing else to add, let's continue with the marketing department." After he was done speaking, the product director returned to his seat, and the marketing director stood up and walked over to where the product director had been standing earlier to begin his speech. Less than half a minute later, Lin Jie's gaze suddenly drifted to Shiryao, who was standing outside the conference room. Despite the cold weather, she was actually wearing a dress, revealing her fair and slender legs. Lin Jie stared at Shiryao's legs for a moment before he suddenly recalled how he had tricked her into coming back to his house, broken his bedroom door, and locked the two of them in the room. Back then, just like now, his attention had also been drawn away by her long legs. That night, his mind had been thrown into a complete mess by her. Even 1+1 had been reduced to Shiryao's thighs in a ridiculous manner. Recalling the past, Lin Jie couldn't help but burst into laughter. But soon, he noticed that someone was looking at him with a perplexed expression. He quickly realized that he had lost his composure in the meeting once more. He quickly composed himself and leaned against the back of his chair as he stared intently at the marketing director, who was speaking in a rhythmic manner. This time, it didn't even take half a minute for his thoughts to drift away once more. This time, he didn't allow himself to indulge in his thoughts. Instead, he quickly pulled himself together and scanned his surroundings. He noticed that the few employees who had been sneaking glances at Shiryao were still sizing her up from time to time. His mind was already elsewhere. It seemed that the meeting could not continue. At least half of the people in the room had lost their souls. Even if they continued, it would be meaningless. No wonder people say that femme fatale. Looks like I'll have to add a rule to the receptionist later. If Soft Bun appears in the company, they'll have to send her to my office immediately. It's best if she doesn't loiter around the company. With this thought in mind, Lin Jiej cleared his throat and said, "Let's end the meeting here." After that, he stood up and ignored the marketing director, who was staring at him blankly. He picked up the laptop and documents on the table with one hand and walked out of the conference room first. As soon as the door of the conference room closed, the people inside immediately exploded into a pot of porridge. Some of them were discussing who Shi Yao was, some were wondering what was wrong with Lin Jiej, and there were also those who saw Lin Jiej walking towards Shi Yao and gossiping about their relationship. Chapter 762. Compared to the commotion in the conference room, the area outside the conference room was much quieter. Shi Yao had rushed over in a hurry, so she hadn't thought about how she was going to do it. So, by the time she realized what was going to happen, her mind was completely focused on how she was going to speak to Lin Jiej later on. As a result, when Lin Jiej walked up to her and called her name, she didn't even notice it. "Yao Yao." Lin Jiej called out once more, only to see Shi Yao staring blankly at her feet, not reacting at all. Lin Jiej thought that Shi Yao had fallen into a daze because she had seen something fun, so he followed her line of sight, only to see a spotless floor. A slight frown appeared on Lin Jiej's forehead. He stretched out his hand and waved it lightly in front of her. Seeing that she was still staring blankly at him, not even blinking once, the frown on his forehead deepened. What's wrong with Soft Bun? Did she meet with some trouble, or is she in a bad mood? With such thoughts in mind, Lin Jiej spoke up once more with a hint of worry in his voice, "Yao Yao?" Seeing that there was still no reaction from her, he took a step forward and half squatted down in front of her. Grabbing her arm, he asked once more, "Yao Yao? Did something happen?" His touch jolted her back to her senses. Perhaps she had been lost in her thoughts for too long. Being suddenly woken up by someone caused her body to tremble slightly. She turned to look at the person in front of her. When Lin Jiej's handsome face came into view, Shi Yao, who had been thinking about how she should speak to him, suddenly became so nervous that she stuttered a little as she spoke, "Lin Jiej. Why, you're done with your meeting?" How was he supposed to hold a meeting if she came to the company dressed up like this? Lin Jiej only dared to think of such a possibility in his mind, so he replied with a simple "on." Following which, he asked once more, "Why did you suddenly come to the company?" It would have been better if Lin Jiej hadn't asked that question, but the moment he did, the nervous Shi Yao became even more nervous. Seeing that she was unable to speak for a long time, Lin Jiej recalled how she had been in a daze earlier, and the worry on his face deepened. Did something happen? "Yao Yao, don't be nervous, speak slowly." "And that's not it." Shi Yao hurriedly shook her head. Then, she turned to look at Lin Jiej, who was squatting before her, waiting for her to continue speaking. Her mind felt as if it had been filled with glue, and she was at a complete loss for words. "Hello, President Lin." "Good evening, President Lin." However, before Shi Yao could say anything, an employee from the conference room walked out to greet him instead. On the surface, the employees seemed to be greeting Lin Jiej, but in truth, every single person who passed by had their gazes drifting toward Shi Yao. There were even some who kept turning back to look at her after passing by. While it was indeed a good thing that Soft Bun was so attractive, Lin Jiej was still a little unwilling to accept such a good thing. Seeing that Shi Yao wasn't saying a word, he thought that she probably wouldn't be able to say anything for the time being. So, he decided to take the initiative and said, "Yao Yao, let's return to my office first." Shi Yao nodded and replied with an mm. Chapter 763. After entering the office, Lin Jiej closed the door behind him. He grabbed the remote control and pulled down all of the curtains in the office before turning to Shi Yao and asking, "Yao Yao, what's going on? Speak. I. Shi Yao's eyes darted around, and she stuttered for a moment before blurting out. I want to drink water. Lin Jie wasn't a fool. He could tell that Shi Yao was lying through her teeth, but he didn't expose her. Instead, he walked over to the counter and personally poured her a cup of warm water before passing it over to her. Come, let's talk while we drink. I want to finish drinking first. Lin Jie nodded with a, as long as you're happy, look on his face. Shi Yao drank the water very slowly, taking small sips at a time. Lin Jie wasn't in a hurry, so he patiently accompanied her. However, there was a limit to how much water she could drink. Seeing that the cup was almost empty, no matter how unwilling Shi Yao was, she had no choice but to put down the empty cup. After which, she shot a glance at Lin Jie, and before he could say anything, she blurted out, I want to go to the toilet. Lin Jie pointed to the toilet with a, do as you please, look on his face. Shi Yao got up and quickly ran in. After closing the door, she patted her chest and took in deep breaths. How am I supposed to explain this to him? It's all my fault. I was too preoccupied with competing with that, see you there, and I forgot about the important matter at hand. Shi Yao paced around the toilet again and again. The more nervous she got, the more her brain couldn't think straight. Time slowly trickled by. Perhaps noticing that she wasn't coming out after so long, Lin Jie ran over and knocked on the door. Yao Yao? Are you done? Yao Yao, are you all right? Yao Yao, if you don't come out soon, I'll kick the door down. Knowing that it was impossible for her to escape, Shi Yao braced herself and replied, I'm fine. Then, she walked over to the sink and took a deep breath at her reflection in the mirror. Forget it, since things have already come to this, I'll just have to improvise. If I can't stop him, I'll just beat him up. With this thought in mind, Shi Yao circled the washroom once more before her gaze finally fell on the soap box. It's made of metal, so it's pretty heavy. Shi Yao weighed the soap in her hand for 2 seconds before taking it out and tossing it to the side. She rinsed the soap box under the tap and wiped it clean with a napkin before placing it back into her bag. After which, she turned around and headed for the bathroom. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath. Like a warrior who would never return, she opened the door and walked out. Yao Yao, you finally came out, I thought you were still inside. Before Lin Jie could finish his words, Shi Yao had already interjected, I remember now. The reason why I'm looking for you is to intercept you. What intercept? What was he trying to intercept? Did she think she was playing mahjong? For a moment, Lin Jie didn't understand what Shi Yao was getting at, so he replied with a confused, Ha. Ha. Wasn't her intention clear enough? In order to make herself look imposing, Shi Yao puffed out her chest and continued on, I've already said what I wanted to say. I'm hungry now, so can you accompany me to eat? Alright, I'm done with what I wanted to say. Chapter 764. What the heck is going on here? If not for her energetic appearance, would have thought that she was suffering from fever. But despite his doubts, Lin Jie didn't forget the phone call with Liang Xiao that he had put on earlier in the morning. I'm afraid that won't be possible. You should have seen it for yourself this morning. I've already made an appointment with someone, and it's almost dinner time now, so I have to set off now. Should I get my secretary to order some food for you? I already said that I'm here to intercept him. Why is he still going to dinner? Shi Yao widened her eyes in shock. She stared at Lin Jie for a moment before asking, Are you going to meet me there? Lin Jie was bewildered. He's going to meet me there. What does that mean? Seeing that Lin Jie wasn't saying anything, Shi Yao thought that he was tacitly agreeing to it, so she grew even more anxious. Why are you going to meet me there? What the F***ck was going on? Lin Jiej was completely baffled. Yao Yao, what do you mean by meet me there? I didn't say that I'm going to meet you there. Since you said that you're going to meet me there, why aren't you accompanying me for dinner? You're going to meet me there. Aren't you going to meet me there? Shi Yao's words sounded like a tongue twister. The first time Lin Jiej heard those words, he didn't understand them at all. However, after repeating those words in his head twice, he finally realized what was going on. When he was on the phone with Liang Xiao this morning, he said, "I'll see you there." Now, she's saying, "I'll see you there." Could it be that she's referring to Liang Xiao by, "I'll see you there"? Indescribable agitation and delight instantly filled Lin Jiej's heart. If she's really referring to Liang Xiao, does that mean that she's jealous? And when she said that she's going to intercept him, she's actually referring to Liang Xiao, preventing him from meeting Liang Xiao. Lin Jiej tried his best to suppress the surging emotions in his heart as he stared at Shi Yao and asked hesitantly, "Yao Yao, are you referring to Liang Xiao? Who else?" Without any hesitation, Shi Yao answered Lin Jiej's question. "Is there anyone else? Could it be Li Xiao? Lin Xiao? Shang Xiao? Sun Xiao? Xia Xiao?" As the names of all sorts of surnames drifted into Lin Jiej's ears, he couldn't help but feel as if he was dreaming. It was really as he had guessed. She was really jealous. She was jealous, she was actually jealous. But her words were ambiguous. Did she recognize her own heart, or was it just a moment of impulse? Lin Jiej held his breath and waited for the raging emotions in his heart to subside a little before saying, "Yao Yao, I made a lunch appointment with Liang Xiao this morning. As you can see, it's important to have integrity. You can't go back on your word at the last minute, right?" As Lin Jiej spoke, he discreetly unlocked his phone and tapped into the call log. After which, he discreetly lowered his head to glance at the screen before swiftly tapping on Liang Xiao's name and making a call. There was only a single ring before he hung up. Then, as if nothing had happened, he continued speaking. "Yao Yao, I really want to have a meal with you." Before he could finish his sentence, his phone rang. Chapter 765. Lin Jiej waited until Shi Yao's gaze fell on his phone screen and saw the name on the screen before he picked up the call and raised the phone to his ear. "Liang Xiao, what's wrong? Did you call me earlier for something?" Lin Jiej didn't answer her question directly. "No, I was held up by something. I'll head over now." After saying what he wanted to say, he hung up the phone and turned to Shi Yao. "Yao Yao, I'll talk to you later. Liang Xiao has already arrived, so I can't keep her waiting. It's too rude of me to keep her waiting. I really have to go now." As he said those words, Lin Jiej walked over to the clothes rack and grabbed his coat. After which, he grabbed his car keys from the office table and prepared to leave. Seriously? He's actually thinking of leaving. As expected of the only girl who had ever taught him mathematics in his junior high school. It seemed like she was quite important to him. Since that was the case, she couldn't let him leave. If he were to be taken by that girl when they met tonight, wouldn't she regret it for the rest of her life? Alarm bells rang in Shi Yao's head. No, definitely not. Since he's refusing a toast, I'll make him drink a forfeit. I might as well do as I did in the washroom and beat him up. It's fortunate that I prepared a weapon in advance. With this thought in mind, Shi Yao reached into her bag. She wanted to reach for the soap box and knock Lin Jiej out, but Lin Jiej was already walking toward the office door. In a moment of desperation, as he was walking past her, she hurriedly took out the things that she had been randomly grabbing from her bag. It was a piece of candy. Shi Yao stared at the candy for 3 seconds before standing in front of Lin Jiej and saying, "I'll treat you to a piece of candy." As she said those words, Yao tore open the candy wrapper and stuffed it into Lin Jiej's mouth. The candy was cotton candy, and it melted in his mouth. Lin Jiej felt a rich sweetness before his Adam's apple moved, and the candy entered his stomach. Seeing his swallowing motion, Yao raised her head to look at him and asked, "You swallowed it?" Lin Jiej replied with an before adding, "If there's nothing else, I'll be taking my leave first." Before Lin Jiej could make a move, Yao had already stretched out her arms to block his path. "That won't do. Since you've eaten my candy, you should at least give me something in return. There's a saying called reciprocity. Have you heard of it before?" Lowering his head, Lin Jiej glanced at Yao's left arm, which was blocking his way, before shifting his gaze to her right arm. "All right then. Tell me, what do you want from me?" I. Yao stuttered for a moment, but thinking that if she didn't speak up now, she might not get another chance to do so in the future, she closed her eyes and roared furiously, I want you." The office was silent. A long time later, Yao finally opened her eyes and looked at Lin Jiej, who was staring straight at her. "I've already said all the important points, so there's no reason for me to cower anymore." Yao took in a deep breath and straightened her back. Staring back into Lin Jiej's eyes, she continued, "The reciprocity I want is you. You can't go to see Inexorable. I've prepared so much just to stop Inexorable who from going to see her. So, no matter what, you can't meet her today. In other words, since you've eaten my candy, you're mine." Chapter 766. In other words, as long as you eat my candy, you're mine. Holding her breath, Yao stood before Lin Jiej for a long time before she realized that her palms were soaked in sweat, and her heart was pounding furiously. Ping ping ping, ping ping, Yao roared out everything she wanted to say. The office was still silent. Lin Jiej. Why isn't there any reaction from him? Could it be that I didn't express myself clearly enough? Yao secretly assessed Lin Jiej, who was standing in front of her. His face was calm and composed, devoid of any emotions. Could it be that her earlier words weren't sincere enough? Yao pondered for a moment, and she felt that her earlier words might have been too arrogant. It didn't seem like a confession, so she looked at Lin Jiej and pondered for a moment before saying, "Lin Jiej." In truth, she hadn't really thought about how she was going to say those words to him. Even her earlier reaction was an improvisation. But at this moment, she had no idea what was wrong with her. After calling out his name, the words that she wanted to say just flowed out of her mouth. "You said that you like me. You also said that it's fine, and that you can ask me about it after some time." There was a slight tremor in Yao's voice. "Well, it's about time. You can ask me about it now." Lin Jiej remained silent. Yao urged anxiously once more, "Hurry up and ask, Lin Jiej." As if a statue, Lin Jiej didn't budge at all. She had already expressed her intentions so clearly, so why was he still so indifferent? With a slight frown on her forehead, Yao moved her lips, determined to see it through to the end. She wanted to tell him directly that she liked him, and that they could be together, but before she could say those words, the man who had been standing motionlessly before her suddenly turned around and disappeared from the entrance of the washroom like a gust of wind. As the door slammed shut, Yao widened her eyes in shock. What did he mean by that? Why did he ignore her and run off to the washroom? At the very least, when he confessed to her, she would say sorry or something. Besides, even if he suddenly needed to pee, he should at least tell her. The most basic courtesy, right? Yao's cheeks puffed up in anger. She glared at the door of the washroom with her large black eyes, as if she would tear a hole right through it. After slamming the door shut, Lin Jiej leaned against the door for a long while before he finally raised his head to look at his reflection in the mirror. This nose, these eyes, and this mouth. It's really him. In other words, Yao's earlier words were really directed at Lin Jie. I want you. No matter what, you can't go see her today. In short, if you eat my candy, you're mine. It's about time, you can ask me now. As those words echoed in Lin Jie's ears, his fingertips began to tremble uncontrollably. Soft Bun was confessing her feelings to him. He had waited for so long, and this day had finally arrived. Chapter 767. Leaning against the door, Lin Jie's lips curled into a smile. His smile grew wider and wider. In the end, there was even a slight chuckle coming from the corner of his mouth. All of a sudden, ping 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 sounds of knocking came from the door behind him, followed by Yao's shout, Lin Jie. Lin Jie. It was then that Lin Jie suddenly remembered that he had left Soft Bun alone outside. He hurriedly straightened his body and buried the joy that had filled his chest in the depths of his heart before reaching out to pull open the door. Yao was standing at the door. As soon as Lin Jie opened the door, he saw her. Meeting her gaze, Lin Jie's lips couldn't help but curl up once more. He didn't say a word to her. Instead, he brushed past her and headed for the door. He's still ignoring me. Yao blinked her eyes as she followed Lin Jie's footsteps and turned around. Is he leaving? Where is he going? To look for that guy. Yao suddenly felt a little regretful for wasting her breath on him earlier. She should have been more straightforward and knocked him out with the soap box. With such thoughts in mind, Yao reached into her bag and took out the soap box. She gripped the soap case tightly and aimed it at the back of Lin Jie's head. Just as she was about to shout for him to stop and smash the soap case mercilessly into his head, Lin Jie, who was leisurely walking forward with his back facing her, suddenly placed his right hand behind his back and beckoned her over with his 5 fingers. Lin Jie. What does he mean by this? It can't be that he's asking me to follow him, right? Grabbing the soap box, Yao stared at Lin Jie's hand and studied it for a moment. Perhaps it was because she wasn't following him, but his beckoning became even more intense. It looks like it's really what I'm thinking. Without any hesitation, Yao ran a few steps in her high heels to catch up to Lin Jie. Hearing her footsteps, Lin Jie slowed down significantly. When she finally caught up to him, he lowered his head slightly to look at her before reaching out to take her bag from her left hand. Very quickly, he switched her bag to his other hand. Then with the hand holding her bag, he pushed open the office door. With the other hand, which had just been freed, he grabbed her wrist and led her out of the office. There were still quite a few people who hadn't gotten off work yet. While they didn't dare to look at Lin Jie and Yao in the eye, their attention was still focused on them. On the other hand, Lin Jie seemed to be completely oblivious to the curious gazes directed at him from the crowd. Pulling Yao along, he slowly moved his palm downward. All of a sudden, Yao felt a little nervous. She subconsciously withdrew her hand, but she couldn't escape from his grasp. His hand continued to slide down until his palm completely wrapped around her little hand. Only then did he stop. Then he tightly held her hand and walked out of the elevator. His palm was big and warm, and Yao's heart couldn't help but race. We're going to hold hands just like that? Yao stared at the hand that Lin Jie was holding tightly onto for a moment before she tiptoed over to his side and muttered, Lin Jie, I'm telling you, as long as you hold my hand, you'll be my dog, aren't I your dog? Chapter 768. Doesn't that make you a little bitch? Of course not. I'm a human, and you're a dog. Yes, we're a beauty and a beast. Yao was amused by Lin Jie's reply. The elevator stopped at the underground car park, and just as Lin Jiej was leading Shuyao out, Shuyao asked curiously, "Where are we going? Aren't you hungry?" "I'm going to accompany you for dinner." "Oh," Shuyao replied. Recalling how he rejected her earlier, she couldn't help but ask, "You already have a dinner date with someone, and it's already past 6:30 now. You're already late, so it wouldn't be nice if you don't head over now, right?" "Is that so?" "I think it's a good idea." Lin Jiej first helped Shuyao with her seatbelt before fastening it for himself. No, it's really not a good idea. You can just send me back to school and have your secretary order a takeaway for me. Besides, a person should have integrity. You can't go back on your word at the last minute." Those were his exact words. Was Soft Bun trying to settle the score with him? As Lin Jiej started the car, he replied without any hesitation, "A person should have integrity, but it depends on the person. For example, I have to be honest with you, but for outsiders, it depends on the situation." Outsiders. Those two words had successfully coaxed Shuyao. "You mean to say that you're an outsider? What about me? My wife?" Lin Jiej's lips curled up. "I couldn't ask for more." "What couldn't ask for more?" With a slight frown on her forehead, she went through the words that she had just said in her head once more. "Wife. Doesn't that mean wife?" Shuyao's face immediately reddened. "Lin Jiej, you're going too far. You set me up." "I didn't." "I did." "I really didn't." I did." "Alright, I did." Before Shuyao could say anything, Lin Jiej had already asked, "What do you want to eat?" "Roast duck. Kung Pao chicken. Mala fragrant pot." Shuyao was successfully led astray by Lin Jiej. Tilting her head, she began thinking about food. Eventually, Lin Jiej brought Shuyao to a roast duck restaurant. Halfway through the meal, Shuyao suddenly recalled that Lin Jiej hadn't gone to meet invisibly, and he hadn't called invisibly either. So, she couldn't help but ask, "You didn't go to meet invisibly, and you didn't tell her either?" "No." Lin Jiej, who was still focused on helping Shuyao roll the roast duck, replied. "Then why didn't she call you to ask why you didn't go?" Lin Jiej didn't think too much into it, but he knew that Shuyao was still immersed in her jealousy. He passed the duck meat patty to her and replied, "I don't have any." "Oh." Shuyao replied as she took the burrito and stuffed it into her mouth. After swallowing it, she began mocking Lin Jiej without any hesitation. "It looks like you aren't that important to meet me, not leave you after all." For a moment, Lin Jiej was still in a daze. He glanced at Shuyao and asked, Am I wrong?" "Look, the two of you agreed to meet invisibly at 6:30 p.m., but it's already been 2 hours, and she hasn't called to ask about you at all. This goes to show that you aren't important to her at all." Chapter 769. Without thinking too much about it, Shuyao picked up the spoon and started drinking the soup. It was only after she was done that she realized that this was the bowl and spoon that Lin Jiej had used. In other words, the bowl that his lips and tongue had touched was the same bowl that she had touched with her lips and tongue. Shuyao's face burned furiously. "But this is your bowl and spoon," Lin Jiej replied calmly with an Shuyao lowered her head and muttered softly, "I have my own bowl and spoon." Without saying a word, Lin Jiej rolled up another duck patty and placed it on Shuyao's plate. When Shuyao was done eating the duck patty, Lin Jiej whispered into Shuyao's ear, "It's not like I haven't eaten this before." It took Shuyao a moment to process what was going on. Blinking her eyes in shock, she exclaimed, "Aw." Lin Jiej didn't say a word. Instead, he shot a meaningful glance at his bowl and spoon. Shuyao stared blankly at Lin Jiej's bowl and spoon for a moment before realization dawned on her. What was he referring to earlier? He was telling her that she had kissed him before, so it was fine for her to eat with the same bowl and spoon. In public, how could he talk to her about this kind of topic? Shi Yao glared at Lin Jie. Lin Jie chuckled softly as he leaned closer to her ear and whispered, "Besides, you'll have to eat it often in the future. You'll get used to it." "Ah! You scoundrel!" Shi Yao's face burned even hotter. She buried her head in her food, not even bothering to glare at Lin Jie. By the time they were done eating and returned to the car, it was already 9:30 p.m. Lin Jie asked, "Where are we going?" Shi Yao replied matter-of-factly, "Back to school. I still have lessons tomorrow morning." Lin Jie replied with an "oh." Then, he thought that he was being too impatient. Even though he was anxious to bring her home, unable to drive into the school, Lin Jie parked his car at the parking lot closest to the school. Then, just like when they left the company, he held Shi Yao's hand tightly as they walked toward the school. When they were about to reach the entrance of the academy, Shi Yao suddenly felt a little embarrassed. She tried to struggle free from Lin Jie's hand, but she failed. Seeing that it was already late at night, and there weren't many people walking around the academy, she decided to just let him hold her hand and lead her back to the dormitory. Along the way, Lin Jie and Shi Yao chatted idly with one another. "What do you want to eat tomorrow?" Shi Yao pondered for a moment before replying, "I feel like eating hot pot." "What about the day after tomorrow?" Cantonese. "What about the day after tomorrow?" "What about the day after tomorrow?" Shi Yao thought as she replied to Lin Jie's question. "What about the day after tomorrow?" "Then, when will you consider eating me?" "What?" "It's nothing." "Oh." Chapter 770. Shi Yao felt something soft on her lips, and before she could even make sense of what was going on, her breath had already been snatched away by him. Her mind went blank, and she lost all ability to think. She stared at his hair, which was right before her eyes. She fell into a daze for a very long time, and it wasn't until her mouth and nostrils were filled with his scent that she finally realized that he had kissed her. His lips were warm, soft, and carried a gentle force that she couldn't resist, constantly invading her lips. In the instant that he pried open her lips, her entire body shuddered, and she grew increasingly nervous. Her limbs stiffened as she leaned against the tree, as if someone had sealed her acupoints. She didn't dare to move in the slightest. He was still kissing her, and the breath in her chest was slowly being sucked dry by him. Yet, she didn't feel any discomfort at all. In fact, unbeknownst to herself, her hand had already grabbed onto his shirt. Perhaps it was her subtle reaction that pleased him, but his kiss suddenly became gentle and slow. She couldn't help but close her eyes and lose herself in the kiss. Both of their breaths gradually became erratic. Behind the empty tree, due to the silence, both of them could hear each other's unstable breathing. Her face grew redder, his body temperature grew hotter, and their hearts beat faster. Just as Shi Yao felt as if her heart was about to leap out of her throat, Lin Jie finally released her. Both of them remained in the same position they had just kissed. Her heart was still beating furiously. Thump, 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 she could still hear the powerful heartbeats coming from his chest. Thump, 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 in the end, their hearts beat in the same rhythm. After an unknown period of time, Lin Jie suddenly reached out and held her face in his hands. Using his slender fingers, he lifted her face up and moved the strands of hair that had fallen by the corner of her eyes to the side. Staring into her eyes, he said, "Repeat what you said in my office back then." Those were words that she had said in a moment of desperation. How could she possibly repeat them now? Shi Yao didn't say a word. "Why aren't you talking? I've never heard such an unconventional confession before. Why don't you say it one more time for me to hear it?" Seeing that Yao's face was still red, Lin Jie asked once more, His voice was exceptionally gentle, causing Yao's body to tremble uncontrollably. She turned her head away, refusing to look at him as she replied softly, No. Yes. No. Yes. No. Then, her lips were sealed by him again. Compared to the previous kiss, this kiss was more ferocious. He seemed to be doing it on purpose. He only let go of her when she struggled. Are you going to tell me or not? Seeing that she didn't show any signs of opening her mouth, he leaned towards her lips again. This time, before his lips could touch hers, she softly said, I came to find you. I'm here to stop you, yes, and I've said what I wanted to say. Now I'm hungry. Can you accompany me to eat? Continue. Chapter 771. What else? That's all, are you sure? Lin Jie gestured for another kiss on Yao's lips. No, I'm not too sure, Lin Jie suddenly chuckled softly. Hurry up and say it then, I. Yao stuttered for a long time, but she was unable to say anything. Lin Jie's fingertips fell on the corner of Yao's lips, and he stroked her lips repeatedly. In fact, his face was gradually inching closer and closer to hers. Just as his lips were about to press against hers, Yao suddenly closed her eyes, and with a look that seemed as if she was looking at death calmly, she muttered the words that had eluded her for the longest time, I want you. Her final words disappeared from his lips. Compared to the previous two kisses, Lin Jie's strength was far greater this time. It was as if he wanted nothing more than to tear Yao's bones apart and devour her. In fact, he even grabbed the back of her head and deepened the kiss. Very soon, their breathing became chaotic once more. Compared to the previous two kisses, it was much more messy. He couldn't help but press his body against hers. Even though they were outdoors, Yao could still sense a dangerous aura from Lin Jie. She suddenly felt a little afraid, and subconsciously, she began to struggle, but he held her down tightly, unwilling to let her go. He pressed his lips against hers and kissed them again and again. It was only when he felt his rationality gradually crumbling that he managed to restrain himself in time. He released her lips and buried his face in her neck, taking deep breaths. Yao's heart was beating incredibly quickly. She leaned against the tree trunk, not daring to move an inch. After a long time, she finally sensed that Lin Jie's breathing had calmed down significantly. Only then did she move her body slightly and say softly, I should go back now. Lin Jie replied with an but he had no intention of letting go of her. Just as Yao was about to remind Lin Jie again, he suddenly straightened his back, lowered his head, and stared into her eyes. Without any warning, he said, Yao, didn't you tell me that I told you something earlier in the office? It's fine, I'll ask you about it later. At this point, Lin Jie paused for a moment before his eyes suddenly lit up. Yao, may I ask if I can openly like you now? Hearing those words, Yao suddenly felt even more nervous than when he'd kissed her so passionately earlier. With a reddened face, she replied with a soft Yao, this is the happiest moment of my life. Lin Jie suddenly burst into laughter, and it was as if thousands of pear blossoms were blooming on a single pear tree. Hearing those words, Yao's heart skipped a beat. Lin Jie reached out to stroke her long hair and said, let's go. With that, he straightened his body and held her hand. If you don't leave now, you won't be able to leave tonight. Yao didn't react in time. She allowed Lin Jie to lead her out of the tree and toward the female dormitory. Just as they were about to reach the entrance of the dormitory, Yao finally understood what he meant by those words. She flung his hand away and shouted, you scoundrel. Lin Jie didn't get angry at all. Instead, He reached out to grab Shi Yao's hand with a smile. Chapter 772. Lin Jie squeezed Shi Yao's soft and supple hand. Then, just as they were about to reach the entrance of the female dormitory, he suddenly pulled her over to him. Catching her off guard, he lowered his head and planted a kiss on Shi Yao's forehead. "Good night, Lin Jie's girlfriend." It was just a light kiss, but his clean and fragrant scent still filled her breath. Shi Yao's heart skipped a beat. All of a sudden, she found herself at a loss for words. In the end, she simply replied with a soft before turning around and running back into the dormitory. Shi Yao took a deep breath and ran back to her dormitory room. Leaning against the door, she raised her hand and touched her glabella before touching her lips. Recalling how he had addressed her as Lin Jie's girlfriend, she couldn't help but giggle foolishly. When she finally came back to her senses, she realized that Tian and Jiang Yu were assessing her from head to toe, as if they were looking at a fool. "Why are all of you surrounding me?" Shi Yao asked nervously. Jiang Yu said, "You shouldn't be asking us, right? We should be the ones asking you. May I ask what that amorous smile of yours meant?" Shi Yao stubbornly replied, "Since when did I fall in love?" Tian, fine, you didn't. You're just letting your imagination run wild. Can you get to the point now? Amorous feelings and fantasies. Was there a difference? Shi Yao's lips twitched. "I'm going to take a bath." Jiang Yu didn't panic in the slightest as she watched Shi Yao's departing silhouette. "It's fine. We'll know even if you don't say anything." Tian nodded her head cooperatively. "That's because when I was hanging the clothes on the balcony earlier, I happened to look down from the window and saw Senior Lin kissing you." Shi Yao's back stiffened for a moment before she hastened her footsteps. Without looking back, she dashed into the washroom and slammed the door shut. Lin Jie didn't return home. Instead, he returned to room 501, which he hadn't returned to for a very long time. Pushing open the door, Xie Shangzhou, who was in the middle of eating instant noodles, and Lu Benlai, who was in the middle of reading a novel, saw Lin Jie and widened their eyes in shock. "Xie Shangzhou, boss, why did you suddenly return to the dorm?" "Lu Benlai, is there a need to ask?" "Boss must have missed me." Xie Shangzhou spat, "Tui, you shameless bastard." "Lu Benlai, your skin is already as thick as the heavens. Do you still have any shame?" Faced with the long-awaited scene of the two of them bickering with one another, Lin Jie leisurely walked over to his table, pulled out a chair, and took a seat. Then, as he switched on his laptop, he recalled the scenes he had shared with Shi Yao tonight, and his lips couldn't help but curl up. Noticing Lin Jie's smile, Lu Benlai immediately stopped bickering with Xie Shangzhou and asked, "Boss, did something good happen to you?" Hearing Lu Benlai's words, Xie Shangzhou also turned to Lin Jie and asked, "Boss, did you sign a huge contract recently?" I signed a lifetime contract." Lin Jie typed on the keyboard and entered the password for his computer. Lu Benlai, lifetime contract? What was going on? Which company? Xie Shangzhou, or is there someone else who stupidly signed a lifetime contract just like me? Lu Benlai, at least you have some self-awareness. You know that you're a fool. Chapter 773. Xie Shangzhou replied calmly with an "oh" before a "aw." After which, he leaped over to Lin Jie's side and bellowed, "Boss, what did you say? You're no longer single. You're no longer single, just like Song Chaoshi. But at least I have little Lai Lai to accompany me. I'm not alone anymore." Lu Benlai, "No, you're alone. I can only be considered as half a single dog. After all, I have a goal, and you don't even have one. You're a bona fide single dog." As he spoke, Lu Benlai turned to Lin Jiej and said, "Boss, congratulations on tying the knot with Little Junior. May the two of you live happily ever after." "Xie Shangzhou, how do you know that it's definitely Little Junior?" Lu Benlai looked at Xie Shangzhou as if he was looking at an idiot. Lin Jiej looked at Xie Shangzhou as if he was tired of living. Xie Shangzhou hurriedly replied, "I was just joking. Of course I know that boss has feelings for Little Junior. Other than Little Junior, there's no one else who can make boss leave his single life." Lu Benlai's gaze turned from one of looking at an idiot to one of disdain. Then, he turned to Lin Jiej and asked, "Boss, will you still love Little Lai Lai after you have Little Junior?" Xie Shangzhou nodded vehemently, "That's right. Boss, will you still bring us to golden resplendence in the future?" While typing on the keyboard, Lin Jiej replied, "Firstly, I've never loved you. Secondly, from now on, I no longer have the final say in our family's finances, so whether we can go to golden resplendence or not will depend on Yao Yao. Lastly, why did the two of you ask such a humiliating question?" Lu Benlai clutched his heart. Heartache, suffocation, critical strike, death. Xie Shangzhou, death together. Ignoring the two of them, Lin Jiej continued typing on the keyboard for a while longer. Then, as the two remaining single dogs of room 501, he realized that they were indeed quite pitiful. Thus, he stopped typing and pondered for a moment before speaking up. "Since the two of you seem to be quite pitiful," Lu Benlai immediately resurrected on the spot. "Boss, I knew that you weren't the kind of person who would abandon me. Xie Shangzhou, boss, I know I'm still very important in your heart. Have you decided to bring us to golden resplendence?" "That's not it." Without any hesitation, Lin Jiej refuted the duo's words. "I just wanted to tell you that, on account of how pitiful the two of you are, I'll bring Yao Yao to visit you during the Qingming festival every year after your deaths." Lu Benlai, Xie Shangzhou, Lu Benlai, I'm going to take a bath. Xie Shangzhou, I'm going to continue eating instant noodles with this dog food. Lin Jiej calmly retracted his gaze and continued typing on the keyboard. It didn't take long for Lu Benlai to finish his bath. It was already November, but Beijing wasn't heating up yet. Lu Benlai couldn't help but shiver. "It's so cold," Xie Shangzhou nodded. "Yes, it's not warm at all." "Did I?" Lin Jiej, who was still typing on the keyboard, raised his hand and massaged his slightly sore neck. "I feel like spring has arrived. It's pretty warm." Lu Benlai. He shouldn't have been so shameless. He was fed dog food again. Xie Shangzhou. That grandson Lu Benlai. Why did he have to provoke our boss? Chapter 774. Oh right, there's something that I forgot to ask you to change Yao Yao's name on your WeChat to Lin Jiej's girlfriend. Without any hesitation, Xie Shangzhou shook his head vehemently. Can I reject it? Lu Benlai nodded his head cooperatively. +1. I want to reject it too. They didn't want to be fed dog food by their boss in real life, and then be fed dog food in their phones all the time. Lin Jiej remained calm in the face of their rejection. If you think you can reject it, feel free to do so. After saying those words, Lin Jiej didn't head to the washroom. Instead, he stood on the spot and stared at Lu Benlai and Xie Shangzhou. This is clearly a threat. Xie Shangzhou muttered under his breath as his heart began to tremble. Compared to Xie Shangzhou, Lu Benlai was a wise man, and he quickly found a way out for himself. It's not that I can't change it, but boss, you have to change Ling Wan's name to Lu Benlai's little wife. Lu Benlai's little wife. Why does this name sound so alluring? Lin Jiej's lips twitched a little before he nodded his noble head and said, Sure. After which, Lin Jiej paused for a moment before adding, but I don't have her WeChat right now. I'll change it when I have one in the future. In other words, since you have my girlfriend's WeChat, you have to change it right now. Alright. Liu Benlai swiftly changed Shi Yao's name to Lin Jiej's girlfriend. After taking a look, Lin Jiej replied with a satisfied before turning his gaze to Xia Shangzhou, who was seated by the side. His ally had already betrayed him, so Xia Shangzhou surrendered without any hesitation. After watching Liu Benlai change his name, Lin Jiej finally turned around and leisurely walked into the washroom. Xia Shangzhou stared at the Lin Jiej's girlfriend that he had personally marked down, and his heart began to bleed. Both he and little Lai Lai were single dogs, so why was little Lai Lai able to negotiate with their boss while he didn't even have anyone to negotiate with? They were all humans, so why did he end up in such a miserable state? After her bath, she was surrounded by Tian Jiangyue, and Jiang Yu for a very long time. It wasn't until they had a rough understanding of what had happened between her and Lin Jiej that they finally let her off. By the time she climbed into bed, it was already past midnight. Just as she was about to set her alarm, she saw a message from Lin Jiej. Are you asleep? It was sent 20 minutes ago. I wonder if he's asleep yet. Shi Yao pondered for a moment before replying, not yet. Lin Jiej, what are you doing? Shi Yao, I was chatting with Jiang Yu, Tian, and the others earlier. Lin Jiej, I see. A second later, Lin Jiej called back. Ling Wan and the others weren't asleep yet, so Shi Yao answered the call. Don't you have classes tomorrow morning? Why aren't you asleep yet? Time to sleep. Lin Jiej replied with an "oh." A moment later, he asked in bewilderment, have you eaten dog meat before? I never eat dog meat. Do you want to try dog meat? Without any hesitation, Shi Yao rejected him, I don't want to. Are you sure you don't want to? It's really delicious. I still don't want to. I don't want to. Shi Yao thought that Lin Jiej was intending to bring her to eat dog meat, so she quickly added, you're not allowed to eat it either. Chapter 775. What? Shi Yao was taken aback. Didn't you say it yourself? Whoever holds your hand is your dog. Those words jolted Shi Yao back to her senses. She did say that, so when he said, this dog, he was referring to himself. And when he said, eat dog meat, he was referring to, eat him. Shi Yao's face suddenly reddened. Lin Jiej, you pervert. She was clearly scolding him, but in his ears, it sounded as if she was praising him. He chuckled softly once more. His voice was very pleasant to the ears, and it made her heart tremble along with it. But this wonderful feeling didn't last for too long before Lin Jiej's voice sounded once more, is this what you call a pervert? There's something even more perverted. Do you want to hear it? Why you're not allowed to say it. Shi Yao hurriedly interrupted Lin Jiej. Fearing that he would go overboard with his words, she feigned a furious look and threatened, if you dare to say it, I'll never talk to you again. Alright, I won't say it anymore. Shi Yao heaved a sigh of relief. But before she could finish heaving a sigh of relief, Lin Jiej spoke up once more. I only make. At first, Shi Yao didn't understand what Lin Jiej meant. She thought that he was referring to I only make, so she was about to ask him what he was going to make, but just as she was about to say those words, she recalled what he had said earlier and realized that she had fainted. How was he talking about I only make? He was clearly saying I won't say it, I only make, do. Shi Yao's face burned even hotter. She had already told him not to say it, and even though he had agreed to it, his following words were even more overboard. He's really going too far. He's a pervert, an invincible pervert in the entire universe. Xiuyao racked her brains for a long time, but she could only come up with these two words to scold Lin Jiej. It was clearly not lethal enough, but she couldn't allow him to gain the upper hand just like that, could she? Just as Xiuyao was thinking about how she should retaliate against Lin Jiej, she suddenly recalled how she had inadvertently found out that Mr. Numbers was Lin Jiej during He Tiantian's birthday celebration. At the time, she only cared about being touched. Later, when she saw him, she was afraid that they would really run away. She only cared about being anxious. Later, when he sent her back to the dorm, she was so happy that she almost forgot about it. Perhaps it was due to Xiuyao's silence that Lin Jiej finally spoke up on the other end of the call. Yao, fearing that he would go overboard with his words, Xiuyao abruptly interjected, "Lin Jiej, do you dare to add my WeChat?" Lin Jiej was taken aback by the sudden turn of events. Xiuyao repeated her earlier words one by one. Say, "Lin Jiej, do you dare to add me on WeChat?" There was no sound from the other end of the line. "Lin Jiej, why aren't you saying anything? Don't tell me you won't even add me on WeChat." "Lin Jiej, no, Xiuyao, you just won't add me on WeChat." Lin Jiej paused for 2 seconds. "I don't have WeChat." Chapter 776. It was extremely quiet on Lin Jiej's end. "Weren't you very talkative just now? Why couldn't he say a single word now?" Xiuyao didn't mind Zhu An's silence at all. Instead, she patiently enjoyed his silence for a moment before slowly speaking up. "Do you really not know this person? It's fine if you don't know him. Let me tell you, his name seems to be Lin Jiej as well. Isn't it a coincidence that his name is the same as yours? And you know what? Lin Jiej is also from G University's mathematics faculty, and he asked me a question. Do you know what it was? He said, 'Do you know the famous figure of G University, Lin Jiej?' Ha ha ha, it's already hilarious enough for Lin Jiej to ask others whether they know Lin Jiej, but he even added, 'influential figure,' in front of it. Lin Jiej's side grew even quieter, so much so that for an instant, Xiuyao thought that she wasn't on the phone with Ben at all. She even lowered her phone from her ear to take a look at the screen. After confirming that the call was still ongoing, she placed the phone back to her ear. Xiuyao imagined Lin Jiej's humiliated expression in her mind, and she couldn't help but feel gleeful for a moment before continuing. That's not the funniest part. The funniest part is that Lin Jiej asked me if I had any regrets in my life, and I told him that the greatest regret in my life is that God gave me the trait of a glutton, but he didn't give me the identity of a tycoon. And you know what he said to me? He said that it doesn't matter if you don't have the status of a nouveau riche, you can marry one. Then, he added, didn't you say that your fiancé came from a good family? Marrying him would resolve one of the greatest regrets in my life. I wonder if that Lin Jiej is you or not. If he is, what you were doing back then was self-promotion. Speaking of which, there's a good chance that Lin Jiej really isn't you. After all, when I told him that my fiancé wasn't mentally healthy, he replied that your fiancé might really be mentally unhealthy. I don't think there's anyone in the world who would malign themselves, right? And it's so dark. I might have made a mistake. Xiuyao muttered to herself for a long time before biting on her fingertip. She tilted her head to the side and pondered for a moment before a deep frown appeared on her forehead. She muttered, weird. If you aren't 111111, why did Sis Jai share your WeChat contact details with 111,111's WeChat contact details? Or could it be that Sis Jai has 2 younger brothers? But I don't know. Then, what if Sis Jai's other younger brother is your elder brother? Or your younger brother? I was just wondering why it's Lin Jai. Lin Jiej, who had been rendered speechless by Xiuyao throughout the entire journey, finally realized what was going on. Without any hesitation, he mocked Lin Jiai. Can I interpret your words as saying that Sis Jiai is the one who caused you to lose your avatar? Realizing that he had been exposed, Lin Jiej, but didn't you say that you don't have a WeChat account? Lin Jiej, Yao Yao, I was wrong, Shi Yao harumphed coldly, I refuse to forgive you. Liars are all puppies. Chapter 777. Shi Yao felt as if a balloon had been popped. Not only did her displeasure vanish in an instant, she even felt an urge to burst into laughter. Lin Jiej, you really have no integrity at all. As long as you're not angry, putting aside integrity, I can even throw away my chastity. Lin Jiej. Alright. Lin Jiej changed the topic with a strong will to live. Yao Yao. His tone suddenly turned extremely serious, making Shi Yao think that he had something important to tell her, and she subconsciously replied with an Did you miss me? His voice was already pleasant to the ear, but at this moment, he had intentionally lowered it a few notches, as if he had added some special effects to it, making it exceptionally alluring. Shi Yao's heart suddenly skipped a beat. When she spoke again, she was still calling his name, but her tone wasn't as furious as before. Instead, there was a hint of coquettishness and shyness. Lin Jiej, I missed you. This time, Shi Yao couldn't even speak anymore. She felt her heart beating so fast that it felt as if it would leap out from her throat at any moment. Why didn't I realize that Lin Jiej was such a flirt? It had only been a few hours since they were together, but she realized that she was already on the verge of losing control. In order to prevent Lin Jiej from continuing on this topic, Shi Yao waited for her heart to calm down a little before she took the initiative to change the topic. Lin Jiej. Can I ask you a question? You. When did you find out that Yao loves ice cream is mine? It's too early. Lin Jiej paused for a moment before continuing, it was last semester. Then why did you hide it from me? Shi Yao replied with a few mms, filled with anticipation. I'm not telling you. Lin Jiej. Alright. Through the phone, Shi Yao could feel Lin Jiej's helplessness toward her. But it was this feeling that warmed her heart. Is this what it feels like to be doted on by someone? The reason I didn't tell you at the start was because I had just realized that I liked you, but you didn't have a good impression of me. So, I thought that if I were to use both methods simultaneously, I might be able to use my avatar in the game to continue fighting on the battlefield even if Lin Jiej were to die. Working from both sides at the same time. Shi Yao couldn't help but interject, Lin Jiej, you sure are scheming. In the face of Shi Yao's sarcasm, Lin Jiej took it all in and said, later on, when I agreed to cancel our engagement, I was glad that I still had this identity. Even if you didn't want me anymore, I could still use this identity to accompany you. It was just a second ago that Shi Yao was still roasting Lin Jiej, but at this very moment, her heart was filled with indescribably complicated emotions. What if I don't find out for the rest of my life, or rather, I don't like you for the rest of my life? What will you do then? The latter half of her words was really just a casual remark from Shi Yao. But Lin Jiej replied with a solemn Indeed. That's exactly what I'm thinking. If we really aren't fated to be together, I'll just accompany you and watch over you forever. Shi Yao's fingers suddenly tightened around her phone. After a long time, she finally asked softly, Lin Jiej, are you a fool? This isn't a question of whether I'm a fool or not. Lin Jiej's tone was as elegant as ever, but there was a deep emotion in his words. I just think that your happiness is more important. Chapter 778. I just think that your happiness is more important. So, if you want freedom, I'll give it to you, even if I have to let go of your hand. Even though I've put in a lot of thought in order to be together with you, there's one thought that has never changed. I really like you. Even though there were some words that Lin Jiej didn't say out loud, Shuyao understood them. She understood the grievances that Lin Jiej had hidden behind those words. She understood that Lin Jiej had proposed to annul the engagement for the sake of her happiness. In her opinion, the happiest thing in a person's life was to meet someone who would never abandon them. There was a sentence that she'd wanted to say in a moment of desperation in the office that afternoon, but she hadn't been able to do so. She'd wanted to say the same thing at night, but she'd run away out of embarrassment. Yet, at this very moment, these words flowed naturally from Shuyao's lips. Lin Jiej. I like you. There was a long moment of silence on the other end of the phone before the same words as before sounded once more. However, the tone had changed from a question to a statement. I've never confessed to a boy before, so I don't know how to do it. In the afternoon, there were some things that I wanted to say, but I didn't know how to say them. In fact, no matter what I said this afternoon or how I refused to let you go, I only have one reason, and that is that I like you, seriously like you. Perhaps I'm a little slow on the uptake, or perhaps I'm a little lacking in confidence and fear, but in any case, I'm late. I'm sorry, Lin Jiej, for making you wait for so long. Even though she was speaking to Lin Jiej through the phone instead of face-to-face like in the afternoon, she still couldn't help but feel a little embarrassed to reveal all of her thoughts to him. So, before Lin Jiej could respond, she hurriedly took the phone away from her ear and hung up. It didn't take long for Lin Jiej to call back. Shuyao didn't pick up the call. Instead, she shrunk deeper into the blanket with a reddened face. A second later, the phone lit up. Lin Jiej had stopped calling and sent a message instead. You're not late. As long as you're willing to come, it's never too late. Shuyao didn't reply to Lin Jiej's message, but after burying her face in the blanket, she couldn't help but giggle. He Tian was sleeping on the bed opposite Shuyao, and upon seeing Shuyao's reaction, she couldn't help but tease. The current Yao Yao is reeking of love from head to toe. Of course not. Shuyao raised her head and refuted He Tian. A second later, Shuyao spoke up once more. Even if there is, it would be the smell of freshly baked meat. After saying those words, Shuyao rubbed her tummy and said, speaking of the words freshly baked, really makes me want to eat bread. Speaking up to this point, Shuyao couldn't help but sigh deeply. If I were in Lin Jiej's house, if he were here, if I had said those words just now, I would surely be eating freshly baked bread in less than 2 hours. He Tian burped loudly. Jiang Yu sighed. I'm so full. Perplexed, Shuyao looked at He Tian before turning to look at Jiang Yu. In the end, her gaze finally fell on Ling Wan. Chapter 779. After hearing Ling Wan's explanation, Shuyao replied with an "oh," before turning to He Tian and Jiang Yu and saying, you'll have to get used to it in the future. A few seconds later, Shuyao spoke up once more, I'm really envious of the two of you. You get to eat dog food. Then Jiang Yu turned off the lights in the dormitory without hesitation. Sleep. Whoever says another word is a pig. Shuyao didn't want to be a pig, so she immediately shut her mouth tightly. Then, she rejoiced in her heart. It's fortunate that I'm not the one who's going to be the one who's going to be a dog. A dog? Ah. Shuyao suddenly recalled the question that Lin Jiej had asked her whether she wanted to eat dog meat. Her heart suddenly started beating wildly. The next day, at 10 in the morning, Lin Jiej had a business trip to Shanghai. Before leaving, he accompanied Shuyao for breakfast. He was intending to send Shuyao to her classroom, but as he hadn't packed his luggage yet, Shuyao was worried that he might miss his flight, so she urged him to hurry up. Thus, he could only part ways with her at the breakfast shop. Lin Jiej drove home first, and after packing up his stuff, he was on the way to the airport. Out of boredom, he kept sending WeChat messages to Shi Yao, who was in the middle of her lessons. Yao Yao? Perhaps it was because she was in class, but Shi Yao's reply was quite similar to his style. What are you doing? What do you think? Class. Then why did you ask? I'm just asking. What's the matter? Nothing, I just wanted to tell you that I missed you. However, before Shi Yao could reply to Lin Jiej's message, the teacher noticed that she was tapping on her phone frequently, so he called her up to answer a question. By the time Shi Yao sat down, she saw that Lin Jiej had sent her a few more messages. Yao Yao, when I am not here, you have to take care of yourself. Yao Yao, tomorrow I want to eat steamed buns for breakfast, what about you? What do you eat? Yao Yao. Ignoring Lin Jiej, Shi Yao switched off her phone. Learning from this lesson, Shi Yao would switch off her phone every time she went to class, and every time she turned it back on after class, she would receive a message from Lin Jiej. Sometimes there were many, and sometimes there was only one. Shi Yao knew that most of the time, it was because he had nothing to do and was idling around. Another one was that he was in a meeting. However, on the afternoon of the second Wednesday, right after Shi Yao's class ended, the first thing she did was switch on her phone. The first thing she heard was a series of notifications. When her phone finally quieted down, she took a look at her notifications, only to see that two of them were advertisements on Taobao and one was a notification from her mobile company. There was no news about Lin Jiej at all. This was the first time she hadn't heard from him after class since he left for the business trip. Did he forget? After packing up her textbooks, Shi Yao followed Leng Wan, He Tian, and Jiang Yu out of the classroom. The more she thought about it, the more worried she felt. Eventually, she sent a message to Lin Jiej, "Hello." It was only after Shi Yao and the others had arrived at a noodle restaurant near their school and placed their order that she received Lin Jiej's reply, "What are you doing?" "Eating rice noodles on the street behind the school." "Other than rice noodles, nothing else?" "No more." "So monotonous." "Shall I order a menu for you?" It didn't take long for the rice noodles to be served. Shi Yao saw a notification on the WeChat page saying that the other party was typing. Knowing that Lin Jiej was typing, she didn't bother replying to him. Instead, she took out a pair of disposable chopsticks and began eating. Chapter 780. After reading Lin Jiej's message, Shi Yao nearly spat out the rice noodles in her mouth. It's a good thing I didn't spit it out. If I did, I'd make him eat the entire bowl of rice noodles. With such a thought in mind, Shi Yao replied to Lin Jiej, "Why should you be the main dish? Tofu pudding and mala hot pot express my dissatisfaction." Lin Jiej, "All right then. They're the main dish, and Lin Jiej is the side dish. As long as you're willing to eat, Lin Jiej can even be your dessert." Pervert. With such thoughts in mind, Shi Yao picked up her phone. However, before she could type out the word pervert, she heard her own name. "Isn't that Shi Yao?" Hearing that voice, Shi Yao subconsciously turned around to look at the source of the voice. There were 3 girls sitting at that table, but Shi Yao didn't recognize any of them. "Yao Yao, what are you looking at?" Sitting across from Shi Yao, He Tian noticed Shi Yao's abnormality and followed her gaze. When she saw the 3 girls Shi Yao was looking at, she discreetly kicked Shi Yao's leg under the table. When Shi Yao finally retracted her gaze and looked at her, He Tian's lips moved once more. This time, her voice was extremely soft, so soft that only the 4 of them at the table could hear her. "Yao Yao, why are you looking at them? Do you know them?" Shi Yao shook her head, "I don't, but they mentioned my name earlier." Actually, I don't know all of them, but I do know one of them. She's Chiniran's roommate, and she's on very good terms with her. Due to the lie detector incident, Chiniran hasn't been in school for a very long time. Furthermore, there are people on the forums who said that she was the one who coaxed Chiniran when she was crying a lot. Tian leaned forward and continued. It's that short-haired girl in the yellow jacket. Based on what I know, her boyfriend doesn't seem to be a decent person. Do you remember when Chiniran hung out with a bunch of ruffians? Her boyfriend seems to be very familiar with them. Those people all listen to her boyfriend. Moreover, that girl just glanced at us again. We confirmed with her eyes that she is the one who is looking for trouble. But, Yao, this kind of people, if you don't have to provoke them, don't look at them anymore. Let's quickly finish eating the noodles and leave. Jiang Yu said in displeasure, why should we be afraid of them? Why should we hurry up and eat? Don't worry, I can take on all three of them. Ling Wan glanced at Jiang Yu and said, fighting won't solve the problem. Besides, Tian also said that the people they know are all unreasonable people. If you were to really fight with them now, you won't be able to live a peaceful life in the future. They will disgust you once today, and tomorrow, they will disgust you again. I'm afraid that you won't be able to go to school peacefully anymore. Yes, Tian and Nuanyuan are right. So, yeah, don't be rash. We won't stoop to their level. Hurry up and finish your meal. Once you're done, we'll leave as soon as possible. Tian and you will. S said that we won. Chapter 781. She Shuyao. Didn't you say that she was dumped by Lin Jiej? One of the two girls sitting at the same table as the yellow-clothed girl spoke up, and the yellow-clothed girl quickly added, that's right, Lin Jiej dumped her. Didn't Lin Jiej say that Shuyao is his fiancé? So what if she's his fiancé? Can't he dump his fiancé? How can she still be his fiancé? At the very most, she's just his second wife. Lin Jiej cancelled the engagement a long time ago. Cancel the engagement. That's right. What's wrong? Do you think that it's normal to cancel the engagement? Even if you think about it with your toes, it's not like Lin Jiej is interested in her, alright? Just look at Lin Jiej's background, and what's her background? They're from two completely different worlds, so what's there to be surprised about? In any case, it's true that the engagement was cancelled. Shuyao was dumped by Lin Jiej, and I'm guessing that Lin Jiej must have found her to be rather boring after he chased after her, so he dumped her. I heard that she was the one who shamelessly sent herself to Lin Jiej's house back then. The heck? Jiang Yu cursed under her breath as she tossed her chopsticks into her bowl. Fearing that the short-tempered Jiang Yu would really charge forward and beat her up, Shuyao hurriedly tried to calm her down. Yeah, calm down. Let them say whatever they want. It won't affect me anyway. Tian, you, it's true that you shouldn't hit others, but I have to say that their mouths are really cheap. Do they even know the truth? How dare they spout nonsense here? Jiang Yu, I'm really infuriated. Look at how many students there are here. If they were to say something like that, it'll surely spread throughout the entire school by the afternoon. Girls tend to be jealous, so who knows how the entire school will talk about Yao. After Shuyao was dumped by Lin Jiej, she cried and begged Lin Jiej. She even ran to Lin Jiej's apartment and waited for him for a very long time, but Lin Jiej ignored her completely. What's even funnier is that Lin Jiej was having a meal with another woman, and she even followed them to the restaurant. But Lin Jiej didn't stop her at all. You might not believe me, but I have a photo of her at the restaurant. Let me show it to you. As she spoke, the girl in yellow began to flip through her phone, and then pushed the screen in front of the two girls at the same table. The people around her were curious and craned their necks to look at her screen. That's true. She really followed Lin Jiej. That girl looks quite pretty. Hearing those words, a slight frown appeared on Shiryao's forehead as she vaguely understood what was going on. Most likely, Liang Mumu had told Qiniran about those matters, and since Qiniran was on good terms with Liang Mumu, she ended up telling Liang Mumu about it. As for the photo, it went without saying that it was Liang Mumu who took it. After all, she was the one who told Shiryao where Lin Jiej and Siyu there was going to eat together that night. The girl in yellow raised the decibel of her voice as she spoke with disdain. Isn't that so? Of course that girl is prettier than her, and she comes from a powerful background. If I were Lin Jiej, I'd choose her too. I heard that Shiryao is the mistress, and that girl is the main character. It's because of her return that Lin Jiej dumped her. But really, there's a certain someone here. She's already dumped by Lin Jiej, but she's still shamelessly sticking to him. She's really despicable and disgusting, Yao Yao. Before the girl in yellow could finish her words, a voice sounded from the entrance of the noodle shop. Chapter 782. Yao Yao. Before the yellow-clothed lady could finish her words, a pleasant voice suddenly sounded from the entrance of the noodle restaurant. That voice wasn't loud, but it was loud enough for many people to hear. Perhaps it was because some people found it familiar, or perhaps it was because the voice was simply too pleasant to listen to, but quite a few people turned their heads in the direction of the voice. And of course, the gossip-loving He Tian was among them. Upon seeing the person, He Tian's eyes widened in astonishment. It's Senior Lin. She stuttered a few times before a glint surfaced in her eyes. It's Senior Lin. Senior Lin. It was only 3 seconds after He Tian finished her words that Shiryao finally realized who Senior Lin was referring to. But, wasn't Lin Jiej on a business trip, and he said that he would only be back tomorrow at the earliest? With such thoughts in mind, Shiryao slowly lifted her head from her bowl of noodle, and it was then that she realized that the people in the noodle restaurant had different expressions on their faces. Some were stunned, some were shocked, and some were excited. Of course, there was also the astonishment of the 3 yellow-clothed ladies. But before Shiryao could finish admiring the expressions of the yellow-clothed ladies, Lin Jiej had already walked up to her side. Yao Yao. Hearing those words, Shiryao raised her head to look at Lin Jiej. Then, she recalled the insulting words those girls had said earlier, and she couldn't help but think that if it weren't for Lin Jiej, she wouldn't have been harassed by them so much. In that moment, she couldn't help but curse Lin Jiej in her heart as femme fatale. After that, she ignored Lin Jiej and continued making friends with the rice noodles. Seeing Shiryao's reaction, Lin Jiej was taken aback for a moment. Then, he swiftly recalled everything he had done during the business trip. Other than the meeting, he had been obediently staying in the hotel alone. Did he do anything wrong? Why was Soft Bun ignoring him? Lin Jiej blinked his eyes innocently before calling out once more, Yao Yao. This time, there was a hint of fawning in his voice. However, Shiryao didn't seem to care about what was going on around her. She was focused on eating her noodle. Seeing that Shiryao was still ignoring him, Lin Jiej could only turn to the spectators for help. He turned his gaze toward Leng Nuan, He Tian, and Jiang Yu, who were seated at the same table as Shiryao. He Tian had always been a spineless person. Before Lin Jiej could even look at her, she had already spoken up. Senior Lin, hurry up and take a seat. As she spoke, He Tian moved a stool for Lin Jiej and placed it beside Shiryao. Traitor! Shiryao cursed He Tian as she bit down on her rice noodles. Lin Jiej politely thanked He Tian before taking a seat. Jiang Yu took the menu and passed it over to Lin Jiej. Senior Lin, have you eaten? Would you like to order something to eat? Traitor number 2. Shi Yao cursed Jiang Yu with gritted teeth as she continued chewing on her rice noodles. Thank you. However, instead of looking at the menu, he pointed to Shi Yao's bowl of rice noodles and said, I'm the same as Yao Yao. I'll eat whatever she eats, lackey. Shi Yao silently labeled Lin Jiege in her mind. After hearing Lin Jiege's words, He Tian immediately ordered a bowl of rice noodles for him. Chapter 783. Sitting beside Shi Yao, Lin Jiege stared at her for a moment, but seeing that she still wasn't looking at him or intending to talk to him, he could only speak up amicably. Yao Yao, I brought you a gift. It's in the car, and it's a local product that I personally picked out. I've tried it, and it's really delicious. Aw. It can't be, right? I've already brought it out, but Soft Bun is still ignoring me. Could it be that she's angry because I didn't tell her about it? After a moment of contemplation, Lin Jiege spoke up once more, and his tone was even more fawning than before. There wasn't the slightest hint of displeasure from Shi Yao's indifference toward him at all. Yao Yao, I was planning to return tomorrow, but I finished everything this afternoon, and I couldn't wait to see you, so I changed the date. I didn't tell you because I wanted to give you a surprise. She's still ignoring me. Soft Bun doesn't seem like the type to throw a tantrum. Something's wrong. With this thought in mind, Lin Jiege scanned the surroundings, and he realized that there were quite a few people looking at him and Shi Yao. Actually, this wasn't anything out of the ordinary. Ever since junior high, whenever he appeared in crowded places, there would always be people sneaking glances at him. But this time, the gazes that everyone was looking at him were different from the usual astonished and excited gazes. It was more as if they were watching a play. Furthermore, those gazes that were on him and Soft Bun would occasionally turn to look at the table beside them. There were 3 girls sitting at that table, and their expressions didn't seem right. It seemed that before he came, there really was a story that happened. But, what exactly happened? Lin Jiege thought that Soft Bun probably wouldn't tell him even if he were to ask her now, so he turned his gaze to He Tian. This girl seems to be supporting me unconditionally. She'll probably take the initiative to talk about it, right? Meeting Lin Jiege's gaze, He Tian said agitatedly, Senior Lin, you must be exhausted after traveling for so long, right? Aw. That's not what I wanted to say, but in the end, they were still family, so Lin Jiege didn't dare to act rashly. Even though he was displeased, he still put on a friendly expression. I'm not tired anymore after seeing Yao Yao. After replying to He Tian, Lin Jiege turned to look at Jiang Yu. I hope that this one is a little smarter, Jiang Yu said without thinking. Senior Lin is so good to Yao Yao. Lin Jiege suppressing the helplessness in his heart, Lin Jiege maintained his good-natured demeanor and said, Isn't that obvious? She's my girl. If I don't treat her well, who should I treat well? By the side, Ling Wan, who had just finished her rice noodles, couldn't help but rub her throbbing glabella in astonishment at Jiang Yu and He Tian's intellect. Then, from the corner of her eyes, she noticed that the 3 girls were about to pay the bill and leave. Weren't you very excited just now? What, now that you've been slapped in the face, you want to leave? How could there be such an easy thing in the world? With such thoughts in mind, Ling Wan didn't even wait for Lin Jiege's gaze to fall on her before speaking up leisurely. Senior Lin, I heard that some time ago, Yao Yao happened to bump into you having dinner with a female student at a restaurant, but you ignored her completely. Chapter 784. Could it be that the 3 girls found out about this matter and said it out loud to ridicule Soft Bun? Even though Lin Jiege didn't know what was going on, he had a feeling that it wasn't too far off from his conjecture. Thus, he took out his phone and said, I need to buy something first. Are you for real? Ling Wan has already said those words, but instead of speaking up for Yao Yao, Senior Lin wants to buy something first. He Tian couldn't help but feel a little displeased. Senior Lin, what do you need to buy now? Lin Jiej tapped on his phone screen as he replied, durian, instant noodles, a keyboard, a washboard, so that I can apologize to them at home. Hearing those words, Shi Yao, who hadn't shown any reaction ever since Lin Jiej appeared, couldn't help but burst into laughter. Seeing Shi Yao's laughter, Lin Jiej's heart finally calmed down. Noticing that she had stopped eating, he hurriedly took out a napkin and passed it to her. Yao Yao, I've only had a meal with a girl recently, and it was to discuss work. Hearing Lin Jiej coaxing Shi Yao amicably, Ling Wan unhurriedly shot another glance at the three girls by the side. Of the three girls, the one in yellow was clearly unable to hold it in any longer. How could they possibly hold it in? It was just a moment ago that they had mocked Shi Yao so confidently, piling all of the nasty words on her. Yet, in the blink of an eye, Lin Jiej had appeared, and he was even coaxing and pampering Shi Yao. It was a slap in the face that came too quickly. It was likely that the three of them were still in a daze. With so many students gathered here, this matter would surely spread to the ears of every single student in the academy. By then, the ones to be mocked wouldn't be Yao Yao but them. With such thoughts in mind, Ling Wan's lips curled up into a cold sneer. Noticing Ling Wan's reaction, Lin Jiej followed her line of sight, and after seeing the awful expressions on the faces of the three girls, he was even more certain that Soft Bun's unhappiness had something to do with them. Didn't they think that Soft Bun was no longer important to him just because they saw him eating with Liang Xiao and ignoring her? Ha, I'll show them what it means to be important. With this thought in mind, Lin Jiej spoke up once more, right, Yao Yao, didn't you say that you wanted to soak in a hot spring some time ago? Soak in hot springs. Shi Yao looked at Lin Jiej with a confused look on her face. As if he couldn't see her expression, Lin Jiej continued, it just so happens that I'm free this Saturday, so I'll accompany you. However, I have a meeting on Sunday morning, so I might not be able to accompany you. As he spoke, he turned to the other three girls in his room and asked, may I know if you have the time? If there is, let's go together. When I am busy, you can accompany Yao Yao. He Tian replied in disbelief, aw. Shall we all go? Jiang Yu hesitated for a moment. Won't that be too expensive? That won't happen. Money isn't as important as Yao Yao, Lin Jiej replied as he discreetly glanced at Luo Ruoxin. The three girls had already run out of the noodle restaurant. Chapter 785. After leaving the noodle restaurant, Lin Jiej had intended to bring Shi Yao to the movies that afternoon. Coincidentally, Shi Yao told him that she, Ling Wan, Jiang Yu, and he Tian had also agreed to watch a movie that afternoon. Thus, Lin Jiej's two-person trip turned into a five-person trip. By the time they were done with the movie, it was already evening. The five of them had dinner together before Ling Wan, Jiang Yu, and he Tian tactfully parted ways with Lin Jiej and Shi Yao under the excuse that they needed to go shopping. It was still early, and Lin Jiej and Shi Yao's current location wasn't too far away from Hohai. Thus, the two of them took a stroll along the lakeside before Lin Jiej sent Shi Yao back to school. This time, Lin Jiej parked his car at the north gate of the school. On the way back to Shi Yao's dormitory, they happened to pass by the field. Just as they were passing by the basketball field, Lin Jiej suddenly halted his footsteps. Shi Yao turned around and asked, "What's wrong?" Lin Jiej stared fixedly into Shi Yao's eyes for a moment before he finally asked the question that had been on his mind the entire afternoon. "Speak, what happened earlier in the afternoon?" Shi Yao was stunned for a moment before she realized what Lin Jiej was referring to. Even though the three girls had said a lot of nasty things, it didn't affect her too much. On the contrary, they didn't gain anything from it either. Besides, their words were really nasty, so Xiuyao didn't want to repeat herself. Thus, she shook her head and said, "It's nothing much. It's all in the past now. How can it be that easy?" Seeing that Xiuyao wasn't willing to speak, Lin Jiej took the initiative to ask, could it have something to do with the three girls sitting on the right during lunch? Lin Jiej hadn't left her side for the entire afternoon, so it couldn't have been Leng Wan, Jiang Yu, and He Tian who told him about it. So, he must have guessed it himself. Xiuyao couldn't help but sigh in her heart. Just what kind of intelligence and observational skills did he possess? To think that even something like that would fail to fool him. Since Lin Jiej had already figured out the gist of the matter, Xiuyao naturally wouldn't hesitate any longer. She nodded her head and replied with an before continuing, "That girl in yellow is Qin Yiran's roommate, as well as her good friend." She probably felt indignant on Qin Yiran's behalf, so she said some nasty words to me after seeing me. Before Xiuyao could finish her sentence, Lin Jiej's eyes had already turned cold. What did they say? Must I say it? Yes. Xiuyao pondered for a moment before her lips moved. She picked out some key points and explained them to Lin Jiej. They said that you dumped me and that my engagement was cancelled. I'm no longer your fiancée but your wife. They also said that you only got together with me for novelty, and after you chased after me, you found it boring, so you turned around and left me. Then, they said that I shamelessly pestered you and beat you up. As for the rest, you already know. It's what Nuan said. They brought up the photo of you at the restaurant that day when you refused to leave and refused to talk to me. Then, they used all sorts of excuses to insult me. They said that my background wasn't as good as hers and that the girl was the real. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.